Welcome, everyone. Today is Monday, April 6, 2026, and this is a regular meeting of the City of Asbury Park Planning Board. Chairwoman Kurzak, can you please call this meeting to order?
Yes, I'd like to call the meeting to order. This meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Chapter Public Law 1975. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the Coaster, Asbury Park Press, by publication of the annual meeting notice and posted on the municipal bulletin board and municipal website. All notices are on file with the board secretary. Official action may be taken on the following matters before the board. This meeting is being recorded by APTV. Can you please join me to salute the flag? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will now take roll call. James Bonanno.
here.
Councilwoman Clayton. Here. Jim Henry.
Here.
Mayor Moore is absent this evening. Jen Souter is absent this evening. Daniel Shenameo.
Here.
Bob Zuckerman is recused from the application for 320 Asbury Avenue. So let me just that. Okay. Kathy McLaughlin. Here. Vice Chair Mike Goonan is absent today. And Chairwoman Barbara Kurzak.
Here. I just wanted to clarify that the application we are hearing is 320 Asbury Avenue. This is not the application that we saw. There were some misprintings that were on social media, that this was going to be the lot that is on next to Paradise. This is not that. So if anybody is here for that, the next time that you're going to be hearing that is going to be probably at the council, not here yet. We haven't gotten to that point yet. So we are going to be hearing a continuation for 320 Asbury Avenue. The first part of this was held on March 16th, and we did not finish that night. So here we are tonight to continue.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Jennifer Phillips Smith. I'm an attorney with FPT Gibbons, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant, APW Redeveloper LLC. As the chairwoman summarized, we were here originally on March 16th. We were able to get through two of our witnesses that evening, our civil engineering and our first architect. We have for you this evening our second architect to talk about the second phase, the third building, and our planner. But before we get to them, at the end of the hearing last time, there were questions about the operation of the parking on the multifamily building in the first phase. So we wanted to bring a witness to answer the questions that you had regarding how that parking would operate before we dive into the architecture in the second building.
Okay, just so that we can also clarify for the public, because some of you may or may not have been here before, what happens now is that for every witness that is brought up, at the end of that testimony, the public is allowed to ask questions about what that witness stated, and only to what that witness stated, so it has to remain within those boundaries. So as everyone comes through, we will be asking the public to ask questions if you would like to. Then at the very end of this, the presentation, if we are done tonight, there is at the very end, there is the capability of the public to ask questions, as to make comments. And these are comments. So comments, you have 3 minutes to comment on this project. And then after that, then the board will make their decision.
Thank you.
Sure.
So with that, we will bring up our first witness to answer the questions about the operation of the parking in the multifamily, and that is Jim Mullen. So before Mr. Mullen starts, for the record, I just want to mark this exhibit that's on the screen as A9.
A9.
So A9 is a sheet that we resubmitted on March 27th that incorporated a few of the small changes that the board had asked for, and we're going to be using this as our primary exhibit this evening. So
And
it's...
Jen, what sheet is that?
Oh, there we go, thank you. So that's sheet 8 of 18.
And it is last dated?
That is the landscaping plan, and it is last dated. Michael, if you could zoom in on that. To the left. Okay, that was 32626.
Thank you. And you raise your right hand. You swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And for the record, if you could state and spell your name, please.
James P. Mullen, M-U-L-L-E-N.
Okay.
All right, so Mr. Mullen,
But wait, before we do that, we have to
Sure.
swear our
Sure.
experts as well. Thank you. You swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth this evening? Thank you.
so, Mr. Mullen, just by way of background, this project, the current subsequent developer is APW redeveloper, and in the subsequent developer agreement, it is indicated that it may be transferred, this Lot 1, to an entity that is affiliated with Pulte, correct?
Correct, that's correct.
Can you explain your
Sorry, could you
affiliation?
repeat that one, please, quickly?
That Lot 1, the first lot here, is under contract to be sold to Pulte Development Group. That's relevant, 'cause I'm going to ask Mr.
Is that
Mullen.
Pulte Homes?
Yes, that's correct.
That's what that guy who is bringing in the Pulte that sort of tried to get Letitia James mortgage for.
Excuse me,
The-
this
yeah, I
is
don't-
not, please, this is not relevant. Go ahead.
But Mr. Mullen, if you could explain your affiliation with Pulte Homes.
Sure. So I am a director of land planning and entitlements. I've been with the company for 26 years with the Pulte Group Northeast Corridor Division. And we have territory all of New Jersey, the eastern part of Pennsylvania, northern part of Delaware, and southern New York. And I'm involved in getting all the development approvals. I'm also an attorney licensed to state in New Jersey. But that's my job, is to get all the approvals and work through creating homeowners associations. It's my assistant and I do that for all of our projects in the division.
And so the multifamily building that was testified to at the last hearing, that is a type of building that you've worked on before, correct?
Correct.
And that building has 50 units, correct?
That's correct.
Now, the question arose previously, how the parking spaces both within the building and outside of the building would be allocated as the units within the building are sold, because this is a for sale project, correct?
It's all for sale, yes.
So as you're selling the units, how would the parking spaces be allocated to the units?
So every unit will be allocated their own, at least one of their own parking spaces. Some of the parking spaces in the garage are tandem. They will be assigned to one unit owner, and they'll be purchased and become part of the deed for that unit, so that that parking space will then go on with that unit, even if it's resold in the future. There are enough parking spaces in the unit in the garage for 38 of the units, and so they'll all get assigned again, first come, first serve, as they are purchased, as they purchase the units. And then outside, the remaining 12 units will get those spaces, and if you could look, yes, those 12 spaces right where the cursor is, and those two below there. So those 12 will be designated for homeowners, and those will be assigned to units on a first come, first served basis. So everyone will have at least have their own designated space.
But, so are you saying that those are going to be deeded, those 12 are going to be deeded as well?
Yes, they'll become part of
Okay.
that unit owners, they will own that spot.
So when they deed it, do they get separate lot numbers then?
No, it'll be part of that deed, the same deed, so that the tax assessor does not have to create a separate deed for that. So it's going to just be part of like an accessory use to that unit.
And then that leaves 14 spaces along the property line there, is that correct?
That's correct.
And how will those 14 spaces be managed?
Those 14 spaces will be managed by the management company. So even before the first unit is sold, a management company will be chosen by Pulte, put in place, and ready to manage that whole space. They'll be available for use by homeowners and by their guests by a pass or a tag on their rear view mirror, so that all those spaces will be managed, maintained by the homeowners association, but available for use by members of the association and their guests.
And just to clarify one change, previously we had shown all 14 of those spaces as EV spaces, but have decided now to make 5 of the spaces EV, correct?
That's correct.
And then all of the spaces inside the building would be make-ready for EV?
Every space inside would be make-ready for EV use, yes.
Okay. So if a homeowner were purchasing a unit and they wanted, let's say, one of the spaces inside the garage, they could also arrange to have a charging station
Yes.
installed?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I hope that explains to the board the questions that you had concerning how the parking would be operated.
Jennifer, where are the EV spaces?
So there, if you could zoom in, Michael, there you go. Jim, if you want to point those out.
Yep.
They're all together. Okay.
Correct.
And those are the exterior spaces, and everything in the interior would also be make-ready.
Right.
What about those 12 spaces?
12 spaces would have an opportunity, I guess, if they wanted to have EV, we could create an EV. It would be up to the homeowner, though. if they wanted.
Okay. Will it be EV ready?
Those would not
Like the
be
interior?
ready. They would have to be, once the purchaser decides, they would then have to be created.
Okay.
All right.
Are there any other questions by the planning board members about how parking is going to be managed?
Which, this is just for the one
Yes.
building? Which one, which number again?
I think we're calling this one Building 1.
Building 1?
Yeah.
So every unit will have at least one
Right.
space assigned?
Yes, assigned to them, that's their own space.
And the tandem spaces will be shared?
No, that one unit owner will have 2 spaces.
So a tandem
On what
would,
basis are those out?
First come, first serve. So as the home buyers come into the sales office, if they want to choose and purchase those 2 spaces with their unit, they could purchase them.
So would someone with a one-bedroom be able to purchase a tandem space?
Most likely, yes.
Are those spaces, the interior spaces, and especially the tandem spaces, are they going to be a part of the sale price, or is that going to be an extra?
It'll be an extra.
So can you purchase a unit and not get a space if you wanted to?
I think you could, because it is for sale, but almost everyone buys a space.
And
That's our experience.
I will say that the subsequent developer agreement does not allow the unit owners to get on-street parking permits.
So I remember you saying that in the last meeting, so I was just gonna say, if a unit chooses not to get a space, let's just say they don't own a car.
Right. I mean,
If they ever sold that new resident would never be able to get a parking space anywhere. Like-
Right, ever.
So I would be cautious
No,
about.
that wouldn't be, because...
No, it would be.
it would.
It would
No,
be.
'cause
No,
there's
because those
14.
12 spaces that are reserved outside wouldn't be used up then, or there would be an extra space available that would be maintained by either Pulte until we sold out, or then the homeowner association would have that space available to sell to the next homeowner.
Well, could somebody who's bought spaces, could they sell those spaces to somebody
No,
else?
they cannot. They can go with that unit. They're going to be able to buy their spaces, yes, and that'll be assigned to them, but they can't separately sell that space. It's going to be, it's going to go with the unit. It stays with the unit.
My only concern would be that if a unit does not buy a space
Yes.
and you end up selling those extra spaces on top of it, because,
So there'll always be that
I mean,
one
well,
space.
we don't, what you're saying, we just don't know that for sure. I would say you probably shouldn't sell a unit without at least one space.
Yeah, and
I agree
in
with that.
practice, that is the way it works. Everybody buys a space.
So you would commit to that legally as a condition of the resolution?
We can do that, sure.
That
Yes.
every unit will have at least one space?
Yes.
Okay. That's satisfactory to the board?
Yes.
And so are we saying that those side spaces, I think you mentioned there were like 14 of
Yes.
them, are those not available, or are they available to the townhomes as well?
He's saying they are and they aren't, because he said first that they were be guest passes and day passes, and then he's saying they could sell them later.
But-
So
No,
if
we
we get
wouldn't
the
sell
clarification,
those,
that'd be great.
not going to sell those 14. They're not going to be sold.
What are you doing with them?
They're going to be managed by the management company, and the association will own them as a common element. And they'll be used for overflow parking for guests, or if, another homeowner wants to get a pass to use that space.
For your HOA, because I heard there were going to be
Yes.
3 different HOAs.
This HOA is a Pulte HOA.
Right, so
Yeah.
when you say available to the HOA
Yeah.
permit, only to your HOA?
Yes, only our
So
HOA.
building 1 and 2, or just building 1?
It should be only building 1. Building 2 has 4 spaces in each of their units, so 2-car garages and 2 parking spaces in the driveway.
But their guests would not be able to
No.
they will not get a tandem.
Right, they wouldn't get.
So is that going to be the same homeowners association, building one and
It
building
could
two?
be the same homeowner association, yes. But those still would not be, they would not be permitted, they would not be sold to unit.
Is it could be or is it going to be?
One or two homeowner
You
associations?
say it could be,
I think we
Homeowner,
previously had said, we thought that'd be two
homeowners.
separate.
There's probably going to be two separate associations.
Will there
On
be
this
three
side.
because of Building 3?
Yes.
So let's be clear as to what this is going to
But
be.
Building 3 will not have access to those parking spaces.
All right, will Building 2?
We're saying no.
All right, no. So Building 1 is the only one that has access to those 14 spots and the 12 spots. The 12 spots are permanent.
Yes.
They're owned by
The unit
whoever
owner.
owns the unit. Everything underneath is owned by whatever's unit. The 14 are
Owned by
the association,
condo
and they will
association.
figure it out.
Right.
Good luck to them.
No, we've done this before.
Okay, all right. Maybe not here, but you've done it before.
Because
What-
obviously there's a severe parking concern.
Yes.
Not to force people out onto the
Right.
street.
Which our home buyers will know when they come to Asbury Park, if they know Asbury Park.
But if you are committing that there will be at least one space for
Oh, yes, absolutely.
residential unit.
Correct.
what happens in the event that there's a resale of the unit where there is no assigned parking space?
Well, no, we said we're going to assign a spot to everyone.
Yes, but somebody comes in and says, I don't want a spot. And then they resell the unit, what happens? I thought you said it was going to be mandatory.
Yes, it's part of their deed. They can't separate them.
We're
We will agree as a
asking for
condition
them
of the approval.
that it will be with the unit. Every unit has to have at least one that goes with the deed.
Okay, so there's no possibility of somebody coming in and said, I don't want a parking spot.
No.
They don't have to use it,
don't have
but
to-
they will get a parking spot with their
Okay.
deed.
They have to buy it. They have to buy it. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions from the board or to our professionals about what was just testified about? No? Okay, if anybody from the public would like to ask any questions about this topic, please go to the microphone and our attorney will, it has to be, remember, it has to be exactly about the topic that was discussed.
My name is Lori Myers. I'm at 301 Cookman, Unit 5. I noticed that there are now more parking spaces along that line.
No, same number.
Is the same number of, okay. I also noticed that in connection with the plan that you've now done, you've put in a shielding to shield the lights coming in. Is this
We haven't, I'm sorry, we have not had that discussion.
Okay, then I won't.
But you can ask for other thing, anything that he said.
This witness is not the engineer, so the engineer presumably will be providing that.
Right.
Hi, my name is Paris Duray. I'm not from the area. I do often work in the area. I'd like to ask for a little bit of clarification as well. So you're saying that there's 38 spots available inside. There are 12 spots available outside that are all guaranteed spots, correct?
There's more spaces inside, but 38 of the unit owners will have a spot under the building.
Okay. And then these 14 spaces that we're talking about, we keep talking about them for guests, but these are multi-family residents, correct?
Yes.
So if we can assume that it's going to be the standard American family, we can assume that there's going to be 2 vehicles per household, yes?
I'm going to stop this line of questioning. There was a lot of questions on this at the last hearing, I believe. Understand, this plan is coming in compliant with parking.
I promise I'm going somewhere with this.
Let me finish. The number of parking spaces that are required for this application comply with what is required by the local ordinance. So questions about how many more parking spaces are going to be needed, it conforms. So we don't want to get into a long, in-depth conversation about that. This board has no jurisdiction to tell the municipality what the parking requirements are. The municipality sets that, they've set it, and this application complies with it, so.
Okay. And then my final question that I just wanted some confirmation on, you did say that we weren't doing any permits or anything for street parking, correct?
That's correct.
All right, I just wanted to say it all out loud, thank you.
And just to reiterate, that is a condition of the developer's agreement with the city as well.
Hi, my name is Joe Meany. I do want to ask a parking question. I'm disabled, I only see one handicap space there.
Now, say somebody gets injured, now they're handicapped, they have, 2-slot space, they gotta juggle their cars with, their spouse. They can't open, they can't have a ramp for their wheelchair anymore, because you got these spaces like sardines with things in there. Can somebody switch to another spot? You can't sell it, you can't buy one, so what happens when, an accident happens? You are not giving these people a choice. You're not putting at least one aside for that issue. Not that you've displayed in any way.
There's no question there.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the question is, but there was testimony from, and I apologize, I say this every time, in order for the mic to pick me up, my back goes to everyone, so I apologize in advance. It's kind of, I have to choose between being picked up by audio and being polite. So there was testimony last time by the engineer about compliance with ADA that was shown more on the civil plans, but there is an ADA space in the ones that are not being allocated that is shown on the plan there as well. But we did have testimony by the engineer previously that the number of ADA spaces does comply.
Anybody else? Any other public questions?
The outside, ADA.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
You have to go up to the mic, but you have to ask a question. Again, this is not for comments. If you want to make comments, there'll be a time for that.
I understand. The outside disabled space is for EV cars. Can just a regular disabled person park there, or do they have to have an EV car to park there, since you are double labeling?
So there are ADA spaces on the inside as well, just to be clear. There was testimony with other plans at the prior hearing that had the plans labeled with the ADA spaces.
Any other questions from the public for this witness? Okay, next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so next we will take just 2 seconds to switch out the laptop. We have Frank Minervini, who's our architect for what is known as, or what is shown as Building 3. Just need 1 second to hook up here.
While you're doing that, you want me to swear him in?
Sure.
Frank, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And if you can state your full name for the record and spell your last.
Frank Minervini, Minervini.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's not showing up as being on the screen.
It should be there. Perfect.
Okay. All right, Mr. Minervini, we will start off by me asking you to summarize your licensure, education, background, and experience, knowing that we are going to be offering you as an expert in the field of architecture.
So I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey, licensed in good standing. I've got a Bachelor of Architecture degree from the New Jersey Institute of Technology. I am principal of MVMK Architecture since 2000. I have been accepted as an expert witness in architecture by more than 30 municipalities throughout the state, including this planning board.
Yes. And is this something that we have to, this is a new piece of evidence?
No.
This is the same one that we had last time?
I'll explain. This was sheet 6 of the original civil engineering set.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Can I ask a question? Have you designed any other projects on the waterfront here?
I have that have yet to be built.
Which one?
Actually, I take that back. The project directly to the south of us, the townhomes, our firm designed.
The Vibe?
No, the
Cove?
The Cove.
Cove.
Yeah.
And what else that you said has not been approved?
Block 4004, block 3904.
Is that 110 First Avenue?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, which was in front of City Council last week, and we're making changes to it.
All right, so I do offer Mr. Minervini as an expert in the field of architecture. All right, so
Okay.
We'll move on to this one. So I don't believe this second part has been marked yet. If you wanna, when you get there, we'll mark that one, but we'll start here with the prior sheet.
Well, everything I'm going to use has been submitted to the board, nothing, I haven't changed anything.
Could you clarify what sheet we're looking at?
So this would have been from the engineering set from the last meeting, yes, sheet number 6. And it's the site and layout plan. And I'm only using this to reorient everyone. I know it's been a bit of a time, couple of weeks since the last meeting. But as you've heard many times today, there are 3 buildings on this site. So buildings 1 and 2 have already been described. My firm is responsible for this parcel, which is a triangular lot. So this particular parcel is different from many we see. It's an irregular shape, and many of the design decisions came from this, a reaction to this site. So again, to orient us, this is Asbury Avenue up here, this is Cookman down here. And we've already discussed building 1, building 2. I'm discussing today building number 3. Okay, so now I'm going to the architectural set that you've got in front of you. No changes have been made since the submission.
And this was from January 13th, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
There you go, you got it right there.
Right there.
Would you like me to wait until you get the drawings?
Yeah, this is the one. We're right there.
So starting with this sheet, this is a 3-dimensional rendering, and I'm going to come back to this when I talk about the architecture more in detail. So my plan is to go through the drawings, talk about relevant parts of it, and then with the architecture specifically, which I know is often something that everyone is very interested in, I'll come back to this rendering as well as others. But again, this site is different because it is a triangle, and this part of the triangle is pointed, meets is the intersection of both Asbury Avenue and Cookman Avenue. So it's a completely different site in terms of the conditions relative to the 2 buildings that you've heard about already. So this sheet, our A1, has all of our floor plans, and just as a general overview, this proposal for building number 3 is an 8-unit building. Floor number 1 has 5,000 square feet of retail space, as well as the lobby, a garage of 16 parking spaces, and the ancillary spaces required for the residential use above. Floor number 2 and floor number 3 have a total of 8 residential units. So I've got this drawing.
Total of all the floors are 8 per floor?
It's 8 in total, 4 per floor, but I didn't phrase it that way because they're duplexed, so it's not as simple as 4 per floor. But in general, there are 2 floors with 8 units. So I'm going to now move on to sheet A2. This is our first floor plan. What is different about this building relative to many we've seen is our retail space had to be raised 3 feet off of grade. So again, for orientation, this is Asbury here, this is Cookman here. You'll see all along Cookman, as well as at the point here, and a section here along Asbury, there is what we're calling a retail promenade. So the access to this 5,000 square foot retail space is solely from this raised promenade. And this is a function of the DEP requirements. So rather than having stairs outside of each of these potential retail spaces, we have one access, so one main access, which is here at the points. So it's kind of a monumental stair that you can access from that intersection of Cookman and Asbury, and you could then go this way, potentially into spaces here, or more likely, you'll come down this section along Cookman and enter either here, here, or here.
2 questions.
Sure.
In that retail space, you have the notation, open area under building, 15,277 square feet. What does that mean, open area under the building? Does that mean under the grade floor of that retail space?
Yeah, it's a civil engineer. No, it's an open space for water storage.
Okay.
It's like a crawl space.
It's a crawl space in essence, but it's not used by the building occupants, nor is it used for any mechanical reason.
Okay, it's a crawl space.
In essence, yeah.
And the retail space, is this like envisioning subdivision?
We designed it so it can be divided. So if again, here's the promenade, the raised promenade I talked about, which is 5 feet in width, and then it's at 8 feet in width where the doors are. So we've designed a door here, double door here, an optional double door here, as well as that main retail entry here. And the sole purpose of these doors is just in the case that this space gets divided in 2, or potentially 3.
Is that handicap accessible?
Yes, now, and I'm gonna show you exactly how as I go through this. So I mentioned, and we're talking just the retail space now. This is the main entry, which is a monumental stair. We've also, sorry?
Can you zoom in?
Oh, sure.
I'm sorry, it's not a trick.
No, it's a good idea. Is that better? One more perhaps?
One more.
Okay. All right. And I should have known that, thank you. So this is the main retail entry. That 3-foot elevation difference is taken up by this stair here. All this section is the promenade, I call it, here. So that's raised 3 feet above grade on Cookman. So the main retail entries are along Cookman. We do have an access along Asbury, but our ADA access is from a ramp here, which is Asbury, along Asbury Avenue. This is the sidewalk as it exists. So there's one ADA access there that gets you to all of this raised retail space. There's also a secondary stair entry along Cookman to get to that promenade here. So we've got ADA compliance, and we also have 2 ways, excluding the ramps, 2 stair sets to get up to that promenade.
And that the length of the ramp and the slope is sufficient for
Yes.
wheelchair access?
We designed it to be in compliance with all ADA requirements. So, and just, I could do a little better job describing it. This is the retail space, which again is at that intersection of Asbury and Cookman. It's about 5,000 square feet, and I described already where the entrances are. The other parts of the first floor plan. So here is the main residential entry, also from either a ramp here or a stair here. Again, we have to make up that height difference from the sidewalk due to DEP regulations. Within this residential portion, which is lobby and the ancillary spaces, I'll describe what we have going on. So this is the main residential lobby. We've got a package room, storage.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
so the residential lobby is, how is that handicap accessible? Through the ramp on Asbury that they have to go out?
There's a ramp on Cookman, so if you can see my cursor, this blue line.
Yeah.
Right here. That ramp takes you to this raised entry platform.
Gotcha, thank you.
You could also enter, if you're not without ADA compliance, here at the stair. So there are several ways to enter. We have all the ancillary lobby spaces. We've got a trash room, which have a compactor, our sprinkler room. This section is our secondary means of egress for the apartments above, which I'll describe when I get to those sheets. Refuse. I think it's important while I have this drawing to talk about it. So the refuse for whoever takes the commercial space or spaces is through this connection directly into the trash room. So depending on if this is one space or 2, there would always be a hallway, a common hallway, connecting any of the retail spaces to this trash room. That trash room, as you'll see when I get up to the residential floors, has a compactor and a storage room in each of the floors that goes directly into the space. Trash will be pulled out, wheeled out in small containers this direction. This was described last meeting by the civil engineer, but just to reiterate her comments. So this rectangle, which is the western portion of building number 1, which is we're responsible for the design and BMK, that is the parking. We've got 16 parking spaces, 2 EV spaces. The remaining 14 will be make-ready, so anybody who has a space here will have the opportunity for an EV parking space. Bicycle parking we're showing bikes here and here, conveniently accessed from the garage. We're proposing, as part of this, 2 per apartment, so there's 16, but there's room for more in reality. But that's what I'd like the drawings with the board to consider.
There's room for more parking, is that what you're saying?
Bicycle parking.
Bicycle.
Yeah. We're at our limit with good design as the parking garage is shown now. So we have the proper backup spaces, all the widths and lengths of the parking spaces are good. We proposed our ADA space here, which has convenient access to the lobby right there. And what else should I talk about?
So is there's just one ADA space?
Correct, that is the requirement for this building, for this building.
Can you tell us about when it says openings, you have all these places that are on Asbury, and as you're entering and exiting the garage, what are those openings?
Here.
Yes,
So
those.
I'm showing on this sheet our flood venting.
Oh, those are the flood vents.
Yeah, I'll describe that a little bit
Okay.
more as I go further into the drawing set.
Right.
But this was also as part of the civil engineering plans, so I just put it on this set to, again, reiterate.
Okay, will you be speaking about how tall those walls are? I mean, I'm not quite sure how the garage is vented.
I have elevation drawings.
So you're going to show us
Answer
that?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So,
Will you
sorry.
be able to address how the parking is assigned? Is it going to be the same as what was described for the other building?
In this case, we've got 2 per unit, so I don't really know the answer. I could get it for you tonight, our client is here. But it's not the same situation as the other buildings, again, because we've got an overage in this case. We have 8 apartments and 16 parking spaces.
Before we leave this drawing, would you clarify one thing? I thought you said initially that there was a stair, from Cookman Avenue, there was a stairway to the promenade.
Yes.
And then you said that there's a ramp.
There's both.
Okay.
Yeah. So the ramp is not on Cookman, the ramp is on Asbury. Cookman has the stair.
Well, you said
a ramp on Cookman.
You said that there was a ramp on Cookman.
There is, but that ramp is, and if you would like to look at the drawing, I could draw on this, on the screen, it might be helpful. So this point on the street, which is Cookman, you could go this way, up the stairs, taking you to the retail promenade.
Yep.
You can go this direction, which is the ramp that takes up that height, the elevation difference for the residential portion of the building.
In other words, you're saying that if you're going east, walking up the promenade, you use the stairs. If you're going to the residential,
West.
but that ramp does not go to the retail, is that your?
Correct. The retail ramp is along Asbury.
Okay.
If this gets subdivided, and where you have like, for instance, on Cookman, going west to east, the first doorway, glass doors, if that is one store, a handicapped person would have to go from Asbury all around that ramp, all the way around to get there.
That's correct.
Can't you just do a ramp instead of, because it looks like on Cookman, you have 2 sets of stairs, yes? 2 sets of steps?
Correct.
They don't go to the same place.
Oh, I don't know if there's a wall there or not, so the one that's further west that just says down.
Yeah. That's the lobby entrance that's the entrance to the.
Well, is it?
It doesn't connect to the retail promenade.
No, but it connects to the small promenade, but if there was no going east, if there was no steps there and just a ramp, is there a way to do it? We could do it too.
You'll have those doors where they are.
The challenge, and thank you, Donna, the challenge is we've got a fixed length to work with, right? So we've got this section.
As well as a height.
As well as the height. So those 2 things are fixed, how long we have to prepare for a ramp, and the height, the elevation we have to change. We have to accommodate. We can't put a secondary ramp on this side. Cookman side if we want the opportunity to divide the spaces, the retail space. Because that would mean we couldn't have this door or this door. So by doing it this way, we've got compliance and I think reasonable access off of Asbury. It's not a secondary street on this design. And we have a main entry here as well as down here. So I think this design meets the ADA compliance requirements as well as the spirit of the law.
But the only access to the residential is from Cookman, the handicap, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so we separated those.
From inside the garage as well.
Well,
yes, of course, if you enter the garage via a car, that's another access. But if you're walking along the street, the only access is along Cookman. So the main entry, it'll make more sense when I get to the renderings, but the main entry for the residential portion is along Cookman.
but there are stairs from Asbury side to the residential, correct?
These are only egress stairs. And I know it's because I haven't gotten to the residential portions yet.
Okay.
There is a secondary stair that comes from 2 floors above and exits, this is that stair, and it exits right out to Asbury. The other stair comes out through the main entry. So the main stair that you'd be using is along Cookman. The secondary emergency exit only, you can't enter there, emergency exit only is exits along Asbury.
All right, so they can't enter along Asbury at all?
That's correct.
They have to go to Cookman to enter?
That's correct.
But you do show a set of stairs on the Asbury side.
Yes, as I mentioned, the secondary means of egress, but they have to be separate.
It's not entrance, it's only...
Yeah,
okay.
so those stairs are only to make up that grade difference from the building height, which is your residential floor, in this case, the lobby. That height to the grade is 3 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So that stair is right here outside. And again, it's only for egress, you cannot enter there.
Okay.
Okay, so let me look at my notes to make sure I got everything. There is something else along that's important regarding this plan. At this point, which is the exact intersection, of Asbury and Cookman, still on our property. We've located an area for public art. It could be a sculpture, and perhaps Jen can give more of the details. We're not designing that, it is a location, and the renderings, again, will help tell that story better, because it's a very prominent location. Doesn't look it here, but you'll see it in the renderings.
And the applicant agreed in the subsequent developer agreement with City Council that the actual artwork would be presented to the Public Arts Commission which could be a condition of approval of this board should the application be approved. But anything that you see on the renderings tonight would be just representative of where the space for the sculpture would be, not necessarily what it would look like.
And one more thing, just to kind of backtrack to the civil engineering commentary. So our retail space is here. Loading for that retail space is right here. There's an existing loading space already.
That is a bus stop.
And it's going to be used for loading and bus stop, as you described.
You can't use a bus stop for a loading zone. NG Transit would never allow that.
Yeah, we have drawings dimensioned. It's a rather large space, but I could ask our civil engineer to address that comment.
We think it's larger than it needs to be. But to your point, and I understand it, there's also that same condition that was described last meeting.
That's a fire hydrant.
And we dimensioned on the plans that the fire hydrant space only takes up a portion of it, and there's room for loading on either side. But I can have our civil engineer speak to that.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the first floor plan. I think I've hit all the important points.
Can I just ask one question
Yes,
before you
of
move
course.
on? The level of the parking, lobby, and retail, they're all the same level?
Correct. The height change is made for the garage here.
Okay.
Are any part of your plans, have there been any studies how this building will affect sightlines?
There haven't been. We are at 3 stories where 8 are permitted. So I'm not concerned about sightlines. And typically, we don't have to provide a sightline, nor I think it's necessary, sightline diagram when you're complying with the height requirements. That has already been considered by City Council when they're writing the ordinance.
I didn't ask if you were required, I just asked if you had done it.
I think we would have if there were not 3 stories. I understand your point. Okay, so that's A2. I'm gonna move to A3 and I'll zoom in. These are the 2 residential floors. So this, the main drawing we're looking at here is the second floor plan.
So those balconies belong to those units?
Correct. There are no common balconies or decks on this design. And then you'll see when I get to the roof too, there's no proposed common roof deck. So I think these will be quieter, but that's...
So like if I'm looking at, what is it, like, well, I guess the second, is that the same, the second and third floor, is that like, is that a 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom?
There are some large units here, and I'll go through the size of all the units here.
So I understand the parking requirement is, it doesn't matter the bedrooms?
Correct.
It's 3 units, 1.5 per unit, that's it?
Correct.
So you could have 10 bedrooms, but still get 1.5 spaces.
That's what the ordinance allows. That's not what we propose, of course, but that's what the ordinance allows. So the second floor plan is slightly different from the first because it is, especially along the western facade, it's set back in certain areas. So at the ground floor, we go near the property line where the shared building with the Pulte project we previously talked about. So we have a 5-foot setback between our building and the property line, and there's a similar setback between that and the multifamily building as described previously. But what we've done in our design to acknowledge that close distance, the majority of our windows are set back even further. So the windows for this apartment are both along Asbury and set back more than 12 feet from the building below, which is the garage. So these windows are set back. These windows for this apartment, we're calling apartment unit number 5, that's set back from Cookman. Only one window is on our property line that it's not shared with Pulte, but it's adjacent to the Pulte property. So that's this right here. So we've acknowledged and designed for the conditions of the adjacent building by...
Yeah, how wide again is that alley that's between the 2 buildings?
It's 10 feet, 5 and 5.
So it'll be 5 on each lot, right?
Correct.
There's a subdivision, right?
Correct. And you can see this line is the property line. And this shading is the multifamily building as previously discussed.
Is that 5-foot setback, is that considered your rear yard?
There are no yards.
I don't think we have, it's, again, this is very strange, irregular condition. We've got 2 street frontages that meet at a point. The only facade we have that's not along the street is this one.
It could be the Flatiron Building, right?
Yeah, for sure, yeah. One of the best. Okay, so I talked about generally, and I'll get to the unit breakdown in a second. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 balconies here. None of them project past the facade of the building. They are set back.
The balcony, I just noticed on so the balcony on the second floor, it overextends even the retail space, right?
This section here.
If I look at your first page?
Yeah. So
right, so it overhangs that?
You can see it right here. There's a dotted line beneath. So that's the largest of the balconies. We go to
What's the depth of that about?
That is about, from here to here, it's 47 feet.
And the projection of the retail space under that is how much, approximately?
That's this line.
Yeah.
Here, it's about half.
So it's about
Yeah, so it's approximately half, yes. Correct.
So, I think you probably alluded to this. So when we talk about a balcony, that's for use by the residents?
The particular unit it's attached to, there are no common balconies as part of this. So this larger balcony on the second floor only is to be used by this unit. Then this balcony, which is recessed, is to be used by this unit. This balcony for this unit, and the same applies to here.
If we didn't have those balconies at the point of the triangle, we would preserve more of a open perspective view of the waterfront, wouldn't we?
I don't agree. And let me go back.
Well, if you were walking down Asbury Avenue,
I think it's best to have this discussion, which I understand, with the
Elevations.
or even the.
Sorry?
I'm going to go to the ground floor plan again, just to reiterate some of the things.
well, if
that
you
I
didn't have a
mentioned.
building there, it would be open space, right?
Of course.
And you'd be able to see, there'd be nothing blocking your view.
But that's not
There's
really.
a view corridor.
Remember something though, and I look at, if you can look at the drawing, if you
Which
don't mind.
drawing do you want?
I'm looking at, this would be our A1, I believe? No, A2, pardon me. So the retail space ends here, but the balcony covers this retail entry. It's not a balcony that is covering grade level movement or pedestrians hanging out, for lack of a better term. It is covering the retail entry. So part of the purpose of it is to, as soon as you come up these stairs, you're now covered by that terrace above and out of the elements.
Well, you're at the elements, but again, like you say, it's covering the retail structure, portion of the retail structure, which is blocking your view. Yes, I mean, if the structure wasn't there, or if the balcony wasn't there, you'd be able to look past it.
It's above the raised platform. It's not above grade level. I'm not sure if that's the question.
Well, how high is
Yeah, we
that?
do-
3 feet, yes?
Yes.
Maybe I can answer the question better with the rendering.
Yeah. So we do, our plan is to go through the floor plans and then go to the renderings, which show the views of what it would look like around the sides of the building.
Yeah, if I can, let me go through, I'm almost done anyway with the floor plans, and then I'll describe the very valid points you're bringing up. So we're back to sheet A2. There was something I should bring up that I neglected to.
Not yet. Not yet.
You don't think so?
Not yet.
We'll come back to them.
Floor plan.
Happily. Okay, understood. So I talked about the two plans. What is different between the two is that this particular apartment does not have this terrace because there is no longer the roof of the garage beneath us. Otherwise, it's the same floor plan. Yeah, so A3, and it's the same for both floor plans. This is your common area. One means of egress here, one means of egress here. This is the elevator, and this is the trash room, which I talked about. So both of the floors have a trash room with a trash chute that goes directly into the space at the ground floor lobby area that I discussed with a compactor.
So that balcony on the second floor, your point that you said?
This one.
No, I'm sorry.
On the third?
On the west, on the second floor?
Okay, understood here.
Yes. So that looks, the balcony looks right over
It
into the
looks-
5-foot setback, or the 10-foot setback.
As well as north.
Right, but are there, on the Pulte building, are there windows that?
There are some
looking
windows
into
there,
it?
yes.
Okay, so they'd be looking into the people's windows.
But we're set back 5 feet from the
Yeah,
property
10
line of the
feet.
building, and then an additional 12 feet. So the windows for this apartment are an additional 12 feet. So it's 17 feet plus the 5 from Pulte, so it's 22 foot difference between
Well,
the two.
I understand that's if somebody's standing up against the wall of their building, but they go on the balcony, and if they're standing at the fence of the balcony looking west, what I'm just trying to say is, there's an.
You asked for the windows.
There's an
I'm discussing the windows.
There are windows in the Pulte building facing them.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
That's
Understood. Okay, so A4 is our roof plan. Two stair access for fire department to the roof. And then really what's left to discuss on this level is the AC condensers. We've located them in the center of the building above the common hallway, and they are shielded from the north partially by this elevator bulkhead and the stair bulkhead, and then partially shielded to the west by this stair bulkhead, and then where it's facing south, we've got screening. Again, as I mentioned, there's no common roof deck proposed here. All right, so we'll go to the architecture, which I think I'll go back to this drawing. And specifically, I'll zoom in and talk about the questions that you had.
Are you going back to the cover page?
To the cover page, yeah. This is the extension that you were asking about, that it goes further than the floor plan below. So if you recall, this is the main entry to the retail space, roughly parallel with these stairs that I described, which are accessed by that at the intersection of Asbury and Cookman. And then when we get to the floor above, the third floor, that balcony no longer has that same projection. It's much smaller. So this projection that you're asking about, its sole function is to shield people who are entering the retail space from the weather.
Why the balcony, the people that own that unit can't stand right above that?
I sure can.
Okay, serves two purposes, but my point being is not only just the balcony, but it's also the extension of the retail space.
I should have said the main purpose.
My point being, if there weren't building structures there, more of a view perspective or view corridor would be preserved.
From where are you asking?
From Asbury Avenue, from like when I walk down Asbury Avenue now.
I think we did a very good job of setting the building back from this intersection. The ordinance allows us to go much further. To your point, we set it back at the first level.
Well, the ordinance
set it
allows
back
you to
at the
build an
level.
8-story building too, right?
And we're not.
I understand, you could have built maybe an 8-story building further back in the lot and used more of the lot as open space.
Which is why I'm not as concerned about the view corridor as perhaps you are.
Well, maybe it's because I live here and I walk down Asbury Avenue.
Could be 8 stories. Certainly don't want to argue, I understand your point, but I think we cannot lose sight of the fact that this building is much, much smaller than is permitted. We've designed it with that in mind. It could be 8 stories, it's 3 stories. Okay, the architecture, which is often something that is, the public has a say in, of course, and they have comments. We think this site, because of its triangular condition, is perfectly suited for a more contemporary design. Having said that, we also have used neutral colors, softer colors, so the majority of the framework of the building is I have materials which I'll pass out in a bit too, and we have a material board, which are the lighter color whites. It's called an Arctic white, but the reality is it's more of an almond. And all the browns you see here are a synthetic wood material. Again, to give it more character. The grade level along the retail space has very tall glass. There's a lot of glass there, again, because of its retail space behind it. Just for reference, this is that 3-foot raised platform that I was talking about, and this is the area where you'll be entering. Let me switch plans here. All the architectural design decisions we made were based on the site. This building could not be designed for a different site. It is designed specifically for the site, and we are trying to acknowledge as much as possible the strange condition of the point, which is Asbury and Cookman intersection. So with that, I'll go back to the plans that I skipped, and I'll zoom into each one separately. This is the Asbury Avenue elevation. If we look on the left here, which is the eastern side, this is the side profile of that entry stair, the main.
What sheet?
I'm sorry, this is sheet
A5.
A5, yeah. I zoomed in and I lost it, but it's A5. This section is the retail. And as questions are asked and discussed, this is one of the balconies on the second floor. and this is the balcony on the third floor. On the second floor, it is a balcony used by the particular apartment, as well as the overhang, which has no structure other than a cantilever that will protect people entering the retail space from the elements. This section is the garage. So what we've done, and I'll zoom in, it'll help better describe it. We've got a solid opaque panel that goes up about 7 feet here, with the thinking that any cars behind it, their headlights are on, the light will not spool over into Asbury Avenue. We've got venting above here, and I've got it shown on the drawings, and I have to get you, I didn't bring it, I have to get you a material sample, but it's a metal mesh venting, similar to the one that was shown for building number 2. Sorry, the multifamily building on the Pulte site. This is a recessed balcony. Its function is as a balcony, of course, but it also helps with the architecture. It breaks up what could be perceived as a very long building otherwise. So that is the Asbury Avenue elevation. This is the Cookman Avenue elevation. And you'll notice that this section is grayed out, and that's simply so that the drawing is easier to understand. That section is not parallel. Actually, I'll go to the diagram. I've got a diagram on the same sheet which shows the reasoning for that lack of color. So the part that's not colored is this section, which I do have an elevation of, but just for clarity, we tried to focus in on this section, which is the entry lobby and the retail spaces, as well as the garage entry. So that's this section here. You can see that the garage elevation is the same as the floor, the same as the sidewalk, same condition as you go further in. This is the main residential entry, as I described when we were looking at the floor plans. And although it's grayed out, this is the other side, and I have another view of it. This is the main retail entry at the intersection of both Cookman and Asbury, pardon me. So this drawing is the secondary portion of the elevation on Cookman. So this is what you would see running parallel to Cookman, where all the retail is at ground level, as well as partially shown is the residential spaces above. And again, the balconies that we've been discussing here and here. To help clarify where the entries are, this is a stair entry to the raised platform, which is how you access the retail, and this is the main. Over here is the main stair to the lobby, and you can see the railing behind, the ramp is behind here, which is your ADA access to the residential portions of the building. Okay.
What is the garage door made of?
Pardon me, it's metal to match the windows.
And is it clear, or
No,
is
it's
it
gonna be
frosted? Is it
opaque.
just,
There's openings with opaque panels.
okay.
For the same reason if someone's maneuvering inside and the door is closed, we don't want the light to spill.
Okay.
What's the width of the garage door?
The garage is, I believe it's 12 feet. Let me get back to that. It's not 24. 24, it's 16 feet, pardon me. 24 is the aisle width, which is the requirement in the garage. So you have, between the back of one space and the back of the other is 24 feet. The garage door itself is 16 feet. And that's the standard for a two-way garage. Let me zoom into this drawing because it helps describe better what I was discussing along the Asbury Avenue facade where the garage is. So this shows what it would look like behind the wall along Asbury Avenue. So there's where a car would be, that's the approximate size of a car. This is the opaque panel. So no light from the headlights will shine off the building. And this is ventilation panel above, here and here.
Below that's the difference from the garage floor level to the street?
Exactly right. This is the approximately 3 feet above sidewalk, and this level is the sidewalk.
So it's 10 feet from the sidewalk where those,
Correct, minimally 10 feet. If it's, we have it 7 feet 6, so it's a bit more. It's 10 feet 6. This is the facade that faces the multifamily building on the western portion of the site. Same design language has been carried around. You can see, again, that 7'6" high opaque panel in the garage. This is vented, so there's no point that headlights will spill over, with the exception of someone driving out of the garage. I think now might be the time to have a discussion about what we're proposing for the flood venting.
Well, before you
Yes,
get into
sure.
that, what can you do with the facade of this building to make it more compatible with what you have to the east and a little bit to the north? This is a transition from the downtown, the Cookman corridor, Asbury Avenue corridor, but you have, to the north, you have the residential building just 2 blocks away. To the east, you have the Empress, which is a building that's, 75 to 90 years old. You have the you have the carousel, you have the power plant. What can you do to your building here to make it a transition from the downtown area to those buildings that are there? Presumably, they're going to stay. What can you do?
And we have looked at that especially since our city council meeting of last week, and heard a lot of feedback from the public on colors specifically on buildings. I'll answer it in 2 different ways. I think this site is completely different from those others because of the triangle. It really does lend it. I'm going to answer your question. I will get to you. That's how we wound up with this coloring. Having said that, we've got the opportunity to keep this, if I zoom in, keep the main idea of this design, which is the light colored grid, but perhaps instead of having wood, which I think makes sense, but understanding your point, perhaps we can use some colors that pick up on those adjacent buildings instead of, maybe not all the wood, but maybe in place of some of the wood. So again, to your point, we can add some color to this facade without making it look like it doesn't belong.
Maybe it's a good time you said you have a material
Yes.
selection.
Yeah, so I'll give you samples of what we were thinking, but I understand your point, in which I imagine others have the same point. We can introduce colors that would make more sense.
Would it only be colors? Is it possible that you could change some of the material, maybe?
Why don't we talk about the material that's proposed?
Before we do, let's talk about design. So, you keep on talking about the difficulty of the site. The site is unique. And in fact,
I didn't say difficulty.
I'm waiting to be inspired by one of these developments on the waterfront. And to be honest with you, thank God I live in a 1904 house, because if you had a few drinks and walked down Kingsley, you might walk into the wrong house. They all look the same. Maybe you change the color. At the 110 First Avenue, I know you took you heard the public, right?
Yes.
And they said, look at the pictures that are up there on that wall. I mean, we deserve better. I don't really mean this as an insult, but...
Please.
This looks like medical offices. I mean, I think I'd go to the doctor here, or I'm going to NYU, on First Avenue. I mean, you've got a triangle site here, you have a signature site, You could have built really a signature building, be inspired.
Well, we have a difference of opinion on what signature means. I think this building is perfectly suited for the site. I do understand that the colors are something that is debatable. Understood that.
It's the structure.
I don't think
it's the color.
No one's just saying color.
Yeah, let me back up a second here, just
feel
for
of
clarity.
Well,
So this, no, it's like, I'm going to answer your question.
Well, yeah, I didn't ask a question.
No.
I'm still talking. I'm still speaking. The designs, and even going to the Pulte building, I know you're not the architect for that, that looks like everything on every other block that they've built. I mean...
Do you think this looks like my building? I'm sorry, Mark.
No, I think yours looks like, no, I don't think it looks like the Pulte. I think it looks, everybody says modernist,
Contemporary, I used the word, and you said modern.
Contemporary, whatever. I think it looks, and I'm in real estate in New York. I've been for 40 years.
Yes, I heard.
Okay. This looks like an office park. This looks like...
Couldn't disagree with you more, but you get to point me in a direction. I absolutely disagree. I think, and our team thinks, this building is perfectly suited for the site. Again, happy to make some changes to soften up the colors, but otherwise, this is a direct response to the site, and that's what architecture should be. Architecture is not to try and push an orthogonal building here that's got a particular style that you may like better than not. This site is suited for that. I am also completely open-minded to other things, so we'll look at colors.
Do you think the design of this building is in keeping, forget about that it matches ordinances or whatever, do you think this design is in keeping with the spirit of the historic waterfront in Asbury Park?
This is not within an historic district.
There is no historic district.
Well, that's my point. So we should, the way, as an architect, I'm trying to be respectful, and I hope you do the same.
I am.
Respectfully, this site is not the same as many of the sites we talked about, the one that I took the beating on, you were pointing out last week. It's not the same. This is a very particular site. There are other triangular sites, but there aren't many where you meet, where Asbury Avenue and Cookman, two major thoroughfares meet. I don't know how we could successfully have a traditional, as you're pointing out, building on a site like this.
I didn't say traditional building.
Well, you implied it.
The Flatiron building wasn't a traditional building either, right?
And I would bet many people came to that, when that building was designed, did not like it. Many people did. It took time.
And now you can't get in.
Yes.
Okay.
We're saying more the same than we are different.
Features, let me just say, the Flatiron building is one of the most photographed structures in the world.
Absolutely.
This will not be.
And just by way of history here, so there was an application made for this site in 2022 that had a building that was taller, that had more units, and I think the architecture was probably was more prominent. And the city council ultimately did not allow that to proceed and wanted a building that had been scaled down, that had less density, and that's ultimately now is what's being brought here. So this application, we applied to the TRC after scaling the building down on September 13th of 2024. We appeared in front of the TRC on November 15th of 2024. We made further changes to the building. We appeared in front of the council on March 26th of 2025. We made further changes to the building. So what you're seeing here is actually 4 years worth of the TRC and the council asking for changes to the building to get us to the building that you see today. This was not something that just happened overnight, and this is not something that didn't happen without public input. There have been multiple meetings in front of the TRC and the council to get us here today. And I see that Frank has more pictures, and it's probably a good idea for us to run through some of the other angles of the building.
Yeah. If I could interrupt you again, you're missing the point. The point is, and I totally agree with you, that this is a unique site. And it is the unique, because of its location, and forget about the fact that it's triangular, you're making the transition from what has been built to the west. And now you're coming to a site and to the east, and maybe it's a block away, but to the east, there are a bunch of historic buildings that are going to stay. Okay? To the north, there's the tower, and that's going to stay. But what can you do to make that transition from what is to the west so that it's not quite so contemporary and transition into the buildings to the east? That's my point, that's my question.
Jim, can you clarify for me what you mean by what's to the west?
I can't hear you now. Please.
What's to the west? What do you mean, what's things that are to the west? Is there a specific building you're talking about?
Well,
because the Asbury Cove is to the west, and that's new.
You've got building 1, you've got building 2, you've got...
on their site.
You've got the other end of that site, okay? You've got the buildings down on Cookman, down Wesley Grove, okay? You're making the transition from the downtown area and to those new buildings that have been built here. And the waterfront redevelopment plan is very specific about how it's supposed to blend. You don't have to mimic what is on the waterfront, but you have to blend it in. You've got the buildings that I mentioned. You've got the First Avenue Pavilion. And your comments, I take very seriously, that you're changing the color, possibly changing part of the wood. How about the storefront windows do not conform to what the waterfront redevelopment plan calls for. So maybe they need to be looked at again. You may have to have a knee wall and instead of a glass panel all the way to the sidewalk, to your promenade. But I've got a lot of faith in what you have done here. All I'm asking is, what more can you do to make this transition? This building is the unique. This is it. What can you do to make it transition to what is to the east?
Yeah, I mean, some of the things you want relief from are like, surface-mounted windows when the plan calls for recessed windows, so we have sills, which are like in historic buildings that give more articulation. I mean, so we're getting everything just flat, flat, flat with balconies.
But the redevelopment plan did not consider today's methods of construction of the building this size, of this style, or not style in terms of architecture, but its construction method. We're not choosing to not set the windows back. Windows cannot be set back based on the standard construction you would use in a building of this type.
I mean, you're trying to tell me, what was it, Central Park 15, Central Park West? That was modern standards, right, built, okay? They built it, hold on, there's windowsills there, right?
Of course.
Okay, they built it out of stone, and they built it on the new construction.
I wasn't clear. And I hear what you're saying. I didn't do a good job of explaining what I was thinking. Construction methods of a building like this are from floors 2 to 3 will be wood. 2 to 3 will be wood. So the standard wood stud on a building of this type, all the residential buildings that are built, and not just in Asbury Park, in our area, we do projects in Manhattan. Doesn't happen much in Manhattan because it's a different situation in terms of context and your location to property lines. But a building like this will be constructed the majority out of wood. And your wood wall is 6 inches in dimension. There's no room to set a window back on a 6-inch stud.
Well, you could put 2 studs.
And then you're not being true. You did mention that, or maybe, I'm sorry, it was the other commissioner who mentioned that, we want to be true to what it is, but that's not being true. That is the exact opposite of what an architect's job should be. We should be, as best as we can, make you happy with what the ordinance says regarding the colors and stuff, but also we should be responding specifically to this site. To do the things that you're suggesting.
Well, you're responding really to the developer wants and profit motivation. I mean, that's ultimately what it comes into.
That's not part of my design process at all. I am giving a program of what to do, and we try our best to make that program work given the site and all the other constraints we've got.
So if you can continue then with the exhibits to show the different perspectives.
So these are other views. This one you've seen already, at least it's something similar. This one is a view along Asbury. Specifically, these are the opaque panels that will conceal the cars behind and the headlights behind. This is Cookman, where, looking from Cookman, this is the stair up to the retail promenade, with the ramp being behind this retaining wall. We hid the ramp, not that there's anything wrong with seeing a ramp, but it allowed us to have a continuation of that plinth, the base of the building. To your point before, Commissioner, about having the windows not come to the ground. This is a completely different circumstance now than something you would see further on Cookman. This building has to be raised 36 inches. So my job is to try and make that retail space as successful as possible. So the thinking is more glass allows more connection to the street, pedestrians along the sidewalk, both on Asbury and Cookman. That's the only reason. Certainly windows could be made smaller, but in this case, given these DEP constraints, seems to me to give that retail space the most chance of success is to have the glass as big as possible.
Yeah, okay. I would agree with you if that building were in a different location. But as I've pointed out before, I believe, and this is my belief, that this building is the transition from what is built on the west to what is existing on the boardwalk and in that general area. And I believe this building, and other than the fact of its location, I think it's a pretty good design, I like it. But I would also like to see a transition from what is to the west to what is in the east of this.
And just so I understand, when you say the west, again, you're talking about the other two properties that we're proposing on this site?
Not only that, but one's to the west of that.
The Cove?
That would be the Cove, yeah, the townhomes.
Yes, and on Cookman, Wesley Grove.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's already built, okay? And your design, or not your design, but the design of buildings 1 and 2, that's already been presented. But we have a situation here where the waterfront redevelopment plan calls for a blending of the new to the old. And for the most part, the architecture of the new is not what was anticipated when that waterfront redevelopment plan was formulated. And okay, what is. But what this particular site, in my opinion, is where the transition, if it's going to be made, has to be made. And what I'm trying to do is to see how you can bring this particular site as a transition period, building. And I'm not arguing with you, I'm just asking what you can do. And you said, well, you can maybe change the color, maybe a little bit of less wood and another type of material. And you said, wait till you present material, and certainly, but.
I do understand your point, and I want you to know, as the design team, we didn't design the Pulte buildings.
I understand.
We worked together, though. We did work together.
I'm not complaining about the design, the prior design. What I'm saying is, this particular building that you have designed is the transition because of what has taken place before and what is. Now, there are a couple of other lots that are going to be built out during the rest of the waterfront redevelopment, but they're small as compared to what has already been done. And what I'm saying is, what can you do as an architect? And I'm asking you, and you've given me a pretty good answer. I mean, this is not a trick question. I just like to see what you can do.
And I'll certainly look at understanding your question and your point, and it's absolutely valid. I just keep coming back to the same point. I'm not suggesting that we won't try and do that. But this site is different from the adjacent to our sites.
I totally agree.
The massing is different. The massing is uncommon. The length of this building is uncommon. I still think this architecture, well, maybe some people don't like it today, perhaps in the future they will like it. well, we can differ on opinion. But there are things we can change to help get closer to what you're suggesting. I think that's your point.
That's what I'm asking you. What can you do? And, I mean,
Let's finish with what we have today.
Yeah, so materials, I mean, I'm not sure if it's pointless now to hand out the materials, so maybe I shouldn't? No.
Yes, Chuck. Let's see what you've got.
Okay. The materials are the same as you see on the boards, and I'll happily pass them around. But the building is 2 color bricks, and that's each of the piers. Can you hear me? Yeah. Yes. Each of the piers I call it grade, but at the base of the plank are broken up into 2 different color brick, slight planar change, just so they don't look as big as they probably need to be. So these are the 2 brick, and again, they match what you see. I can hand them here if you like, or I can hand them there. The framework of the buildings, you look on the elevations, it's called Arctic White. This is that color. And this is the wood, which is majority facade. It is a composite wood. Again, because we have to worry about where the building is constructed, and this will do a very good job of lasting given the seaside conditions.
Frank, is the brick all brick, or is it all thin brick, or?
It's all full-size brick.
Okay. Can you review again which one is?
Where is this going?
Yeah, I will, this one. Here we go. I'll pull it up here, might be easier. So I'll zoom in. But at the base of the building, which is the retail spaces only, the 2 brick colors are here. And those are the 2 you've got.
Hold on.
Again.
It's going to the computer, it's not down there. It's a connector to the computer, it's always that side of it.
I should stop touching them. 2 brick.
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold very still.
Okay.
There.
All right, so that one is the bottom?
Correct.
No, light and dark.
Okay.
It's a lighter and a darker. It's
It's
exactly
harder
right.
to tell on the actual samples.
Because the change is it's muted. We didn't want it to be such an obvious change, although it looks more in the rendering. But the colors you see are what we're proposing.
We saw that. So this one. Here, all right. We don't want to follow anybody.
I'm sorry, where does the wood go?
All the brown you see in between windows, so that would
Like
be
on the second.
all these areas.
On this?
All these areas, that's all the wood, which is only floors 2 and 3. And that's where I suggested introducing some, we'll call it coastal colors, might be something we can look at that may alleviate some of the dislike for the facade, lack of a better term. Again, I'm going to reiterate, I think this building's great, but.
Okay. And this is the white.
What do I know?
Yeah, that's the way.
Okay.
And yes, and that white is the remaining of the frame section. Let me see what I am missing here. So I talked about the materials, which you've got. In terms of green and sustainable elements, the building will have LED lighting. We'll use low VOC paints. All the windows will be Energy Star rated. All the appliances will be Energy Star rated. All the HVAC systems will be high performance type. These are all split systems, so there are no window mounted units. There's an air handler within each of the apartments with the condensing units up on the roof, as I pointed out when I was showing the roof plan. We talked about during the civil, there's also stormwater detention, so that, and all the water heaters will be tankless type. So there's a lot of green elements to the building as well. I'm done with the with my architectural portion, with the exception of questions.
But that's what.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Now's the time.
So is somebody else going to talk about the stormwater? Or was that?
That
what
was
the
done-
moment?
That was,
I know we did it for the other two buildings.
And this one.
Were they for this one also?
Yeah, yes.
Was having them all together is a little,
But I'm going to
Crazy.
piggyback on that, describe something that, some questions come up on the planner's report. So, this building is different because it's up on this 3-foot high plinth because of DEP regulations. We have to allow water, stormwater to come in and out of the building. Typically, that's done with vents or some breakaway systems. What we proposed on this, and I'm gonna pull up the detail, right here. Nope, next one, sorry.
no, that was it,
Did I pass it?
A2.
There we go, sorry, I'm gonna zoom in now so everyone can see it more clearly. What we proposed here is instead of, for example, the vents that you normally see, we designed what we think is a much more elegant solution. So looking at this specifically, and their locations are shown on the plans, we in effect designed an open brick, like a weave pattern. So all of these white sections are voids that allow water from beneath the building where it will recess and then come back out into the street. Water can pass through that. There's a question in the planner's report whether this meets the DEP requirements. I will tell you that we've submitted this for block 4004. It hasn't been flagged. I think if the DEP allows this, this is a very elegant solution to a very common problem. Having said that, if the DEP doesn't, then we will do the standard, what the DEP requirements along this plan. We think, and it's actually quite a bit of extra effort in terms of design and construction, we think this is a much more elegant solution. But if it can't be used, then we'll do the standard.
What do our professionals feel about that?
So what I've pointed out is that it's not DEP's regs, it's a FEMA reg. So if you want to get flood insurance for your building, you need to comply with the requirement that the minimum size of the openings needs to be 3 inches in diameter. So the holes they're proposing are less than 3 inches in diameter. That notwithstanding, and I appreciate the visual effect, what you're going for. My concern is that its location makes it an attractive nuisance. And it's going to be very hard for building maintenance. So is there a location where you can get under the building?
This, yes, of course. This, and I think what's different, how we're thinking of these two things differently is the actual building is behind us, right? So the building at the facade is that 5-foot difference behind us. That is completely open.
Yeah, I know.
So as I talk to our civil engineers, they think that's a large distinction. Having said that, I don't agree, and certainly the board can tell me if I'm wrong, that this will be a nuisance. We're looking at openings that are this big.
I think that my personal concern is what you'd mentioned about people being able to get flood insurance. If anything makes it more difficult, if things are not open as wide as they need to be, 3 inches, whatever the requirement is, I don't want anyone it's hard enough to get that already. I just don't want to design anything or you build something where it makes it more difficult for people to get that coverage. And I don't know what the right answer is, but I'm just saying that.
If this board is okay with the general concept of this, thinking out of the box in terms of flood regulations, and the DEP or FEMA tells us that the sizes are too small, if you're okay with the concept, we can adjust these sizes. Very easily be adjusted.
So what is this is like in the elevated wall, like ground floor? So you'll have sections that will have, this is like a brick wall with some bricks missing?
Yes.
In effect.
And, okay.
As opposed to what we just.
And the force just doesn't knock the other bricks out or something?
No, that's correct. I mean, it has to be structurally designed to your point, but yes.
So I know you're saying it's like 2-inch horizontal, and I guess it's the height of the brick then? So it's 2 by whatever the height of the brick is?
2.5, 3 inches, yeah.
Donna, what's your concern about it being an attractive nuisance?
So this is the space, so you can see in part of this diagram, he has the image of the person. He's standing on the top of the retail promenade, the ramp, right, to get into the retail area. Just to the left, you see like the little, can you just?
The 2.5?
Circulate, make a little circle around the, where the,
Right there.
yeah, right there.
That's it.
So that is right next to the sidewalk.
So you think people are gonna throw garbage in there?
You know they're gonna.
So if you didn't build this, what would you?
Or there's birds.
You would just
you
have
know,
like
there's-
something solid that could blow away?
It would be a flood fence.
Zoom up and show them where we're at. You have the park there. So if not, you got the.
You'd have something without holes that could be pushed out.
So you,
I mean, there's also flood louvers, you know, that they have on the townhouse type building. Might not be, again, as effective here. I mean, I really do like the idea. I just don't think where it is, right next to the sidewalk, you know, next to the bus stop, next to 9 million people walking from, you know,
The boardwalk
the
to
CBD
downtown.
to the boardwalk and back.
Cigarette butts.
Straws,
Right,
everything.
anything.
And after reading the planner's report, of course, I looked at this in more detail. Part of the issue of the possible concern of people throwing garbage in there is easily stopped by a simple mesh behind it that will allow the same amount of water to go through.
Does that not stop the water? Does that cause?
A very fine mesh wouldn't. We are,
There's a regulation for that,
I
so we'll just say
understand.
that. There's
I
a regulation
understand
for that. They would have to comply with that, yes. But
My point is, if this board liked this concept, I could likely make it work. If not, we go very easily. You'll see in the top right, I could do that. This was an attempt to make something look better than it normally does.
Yeah. Well, while I agree that it probably would look nicer, I'm just very concerned, as we all are, about stormwater. And if anything's going to slow it down, I'm against it. Meaning that if the water goes in faster on those flood vents, goes into is it any faster than in your new design?
It would be the exact same. There's a requirement how much water comes in or out. It would be the exact same. What we have to do on this is have more of it rather than what you'll see here. But I thought that was mitigated because it blends in better.
Right.
That's the calculation, the engineer?
Yeah, and also it's, to be clear, submitted to the DEP. So it is under review by the DEP. They have to agree that what we've designed meets their standards. Because this is in an area, I mean, the whole reason that we
yeah,
have to
they need a
elevate
flood
3
hazard
feet
permit, so that they have to go in and get it.
As part of, well, it's part of our CAFR compliance. And so it's not as if this board is making a decision about whether these flood vents are adequate. It's ultimately the DEP's jurisdiction to decide if the flood openings are of adequate.
And nor, as an architect, can I force this down the DEP's throat. If they don't like it, he says it's not going to work, even with whatever adjustments I think can make, then it's, if they haven't seen something before, there's got to be a first time that they see it. And we think this is a good location for that. Because of this raised promenade, we've got another location in town for the exact same reason you have to raise the retail area. And we propose this as well. Again, if you don't want it, it's gone. This
Have you ever used it before?
No, this is the first. And then the genesis came about because I despise how it looks otherwise. Even a really nice facade, those vents affect the facade.
Yeah, they, really take away. I totally agree with you. But we live where we live and, the realities of life. And so again, my concern is if the openings are larger, that just, makes it a greater opportunity. But, and maybe there's a mesh that'll work that's, satisfies the breakaway requirement, that doesn't also get damaged by everybody trying to jam their Coke cans or whatever through. So that's all I'm saying. You have to expect it may not look like this. It may end up looking like the flood vents if DEP says you can't get your permit without it. Otherwise, there's the potential for, with this, we're gonna have, well, we're not, they're gonna have, potential for more maintenance and cleanup and monitoring and issues. That's all.
I think it's a small price to pay, potentially.
What do you think though about animals getting in?
Yeah, 2-inch hole. So Yvonne, if they get approved from DEP, I don't see a problem as long as it's not the same, if it meets all of the actual openings. What you see is, from a stormwater perspective, there's gonna be no difference because you have a square footage of your openings, whether it's small openings or those flood vents. You know, and I'm not an aesthetics guy, I'm not a voter, but I do think that the brick looks nicer than seeing a litter of flood vents, smart vents out there. But from a stormwater perspective, if DEP says it's acceptable.
It's not a stormwater perspective.
Yeah, it is a storm, but it's coastal flooding, so it would be if they get their approval. So that would be my opinion, Yvonne, thank you.
Thank you.
I think I hit on the relevant points for building number 3. I certainly heard the comments.
I think that there is, and I don't know how we would do it, maybe Jenny could give some input on how we can do it, is that I know that we had a concern about the balcony on floor 2 facing the windows on building 1. No, is that building 1?
Building 1, yeah.
Building 1. I can't tell from these, while I understand where the windows are on building 3, I don't remember where the windows are on building 1. So that the balconies do not hit windows.
I do have loaded on my laptop the architectural plans from the previous submission, if you'd like me to pull that up, and if I have Michael's permission.
Just on those, there was that one balcony that was, somebody questioned that one balcony.
There's bedrooms right across from it.
Is there bedrooms right across from it?
Yeah, it looks like bedrooms, it's 2BR. No, sorry, that's the living room and 1 bedroom.
It's just a question, where is the window compared to that balcony?
Looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 windows on that side.
That's the east side, yes.
This is the facade that's facing.
Right, but where would we say is the balcony?
I'll go back to our plan, but the balcony is on the Asbury side, which would be here.
Which would
approximately.
Be roughly there.
All right?
So are we saying?
Yeah. Sorry, Michael's right,
Go
absolutely.
ahead.
It's here.
So the balcony is looking into,
That window,
it depends on how big the balcony is.
balcony's pretty big, so.
On that,
20 foot, I think.
Well, let me explain the thought process there.
Go ahead.
We had this roof section, because the garage takes up more of a footprint than a residential above. So we had this roof section that's attached to an apartment. Why not use it as a terrace? Understanding the point you're making, but I think if that's a concern, we could very easily, if I go back to our plans, if the concern is privacy, which is I certainly believe is what you're saying, I'm going to zoom in on our plan. So this is the balcony, which is again only on the second floor.
Right.
But we could put a 3-foot wide planter with arborvitae, something that our landscape architect will tell us will survive in that area, so that there is privacy between the two. And in the worst case condition, people at the multifamily building that Balti's doing, that Michael just pointed out, they will see green, they won't see windows.
which I don't think is a bad thing.
I can easily do that on this floor only because there is none.
I'm concerned about that.
Okay, I
I'm
understand.
concerned about that, to give them, both sides, some privacy. And if that's just around that corner, because I don't think it's the full length of it.
It's not, correct.
It's just a certain amount of, however many feet that is, that we
Right,
want to.
so that section there, you've got dimensioned, I believe it's 35 feet?
From here to here?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about right, yeah.
Yeah. And so on the multifamily building that's across the alley, 35 feet back from the face of the building.
Along Asbury?
Into the site.
Yeah.
So that takes you to where there are no windows.
Right, that's what I'm saying, is it
But
doesn't, go ahead.
there's the triple window.
Yeah.
That's right on the.
Right, the corner,
Can
the
you jump to
first
the
one.
other? Can we go to, can you jump to the other? plan?
Yes.
Yeah, where the triple windows are,
Yeah.
those
so it's the
triple
triple
windows.
window. Yep. the
Yeah,
triple
those
window is in line with the balcony.
But that's not 34 feet,
No, that's about 10 feet or so.
about 10 feet or so.
Right.
That's where I think that the privacy should.
But that's all the windows in that unit's living room and kitchen.
Right, but otherwise they'd be looking directly into someone's balcony, which is not fair. Just like someone in a balcony looking right into somebody's living room.
That's what they're doing.
But that's what I'm asked, that's what I'm saying, what can we do? What can we do?
I suggest,
You know?
if we're okay with the concept of a balcony being there, because it makes sense to me, we can have that entire length be a privacy screen with planting, and then the only open area would be towards Asbury. And I think that solves all the problems. It allows for a balcony, allows for privacy on both sides, and even on the Pulte side, they'll be looking at green rather than windows.
Right,
Well,
then-
and I'm gonna step in about the landscaping or the idea of using a plant. It's gonna be in a 5-foot wide space with no light on the north side of the building, so you're not gonna get a lot of success out of something in a planter.
Then
So
we
it's
need to know what.
a screen.
What are the other options? Is it a screen that the person that lives in that building can just take down? I'm just saying, what do we want that to look like? You know, what would make sense? Does someone prefer to see a screen, or does someone prefer just to see, well, potentially someone's living room? You know?
Are you talking about, you're talking about putting like a planter on the inside of the balcony?
Correct. So my thought would be, if you're on the balcony we're talking about, you would have approximately 36 inches high and this wide planting bed filled with soil that then has plants on it, and it'll be designed by a landscape architect. If a landscape architect tells us there's no way something's going to live there, then obviously I wouldn't propose it. I'm not a landscape architect. We can, if this board prefers, very easily come up with a nice decorative screen that is about 6 feet high that will, in effect, do the same thing.
I just don't know how because you basically would be one owner's balcony. You have to compel them to
Well, it's part of the condo docs or whatever.
Yeah,
It's a requirement of the approval.
Yeah.
So maybe the screen, to your point, might make more sense. Then it's part of the structure.
I'm just thinking, I own this unit, maybe I don't like what's there.
Yeah.
And it really would be up to the owner.
Well, you could
Anyway.
you could put into the condo.
Yeah.
Master deed,
There it is.
the DC drawing set could have all of these things in it, but I understand your point.
So what are you suggesting, that there's a screen? Kathleen?
Either it's gonna be in the condo docs that this owner has to maintain the green. or-
It's a common element that's going to be maintained by the common.
There you go.
But it's not a common element.
Yes, the balcony
The
is a common
screen,
element.
anything outside, yes.
Okay.
And there'll be architectural,
But Jim, you're talking about, we're talking about,
this building, but here's a problem too.
we're talking about,
Vice versa.
Yeah, this is going to have to be something a little more permanent that has to be maintained.
Happily, we can design a screen that hopefully
I
you'll
think-
like. That
I
will
think
solve
something
that
has to
problem.
happen there.
Maybe not.
Something has to happen there.
I'm trying to. One other question before we get too far away. Are all these windows fixed, or are they?
No, the vast majority are operable. Now, you'll see, and I can go to the elevation, but we've got large windows on the residential portions. In those cases, portion of it's operable. There is a minimum requirement of how much operable, the operable window, how big it has to be within an apartment. We are going to meet and exceed that.
Can you show that?
Sure.
So, like, is it a hopper section or something?
Let me go back to the elevations might be the best. Let me zoom out. And find a better one. Actually, I think the 3D will help. Here we go. This one's good.
Okay.
So in every case, these are operable. And we will, in some cases, have these be a casement window. So you'll have either an awning or a hopper, the lower ones. And in some cases, depending on the room behind it, these can be operable as a casement, swing out.
Right, we're asking that the majority be operable, as many as possible.
Understood.
Be operable.
Understood.
All right? Anything else from this witness? Anything else from our planning board members for this witness? Any questions?
Before we
Okay.
open to the public, can I suggest we take just a few minute break?
Sure. We can take a 5-minute.
I'm sorry.
Seriously?
I'm sorry. After all that, I don't think that's appropriate.
That's not fair. We've been waiting this whole time.
It's 5 minutes. What's the question? You'll be able to ask your question at 9 o'clock. Okay, 5 minutes, please.
So moved.
If anybody wants to check out the buildings being demolished across the street.
Okay, I will take roll call. James Bonanno.
Here.
Yvonne Clayton. Here. Jim Henry. Here. Daniel Shinameo.
Here.
Kathy McLaughlin.
Here.
Chairwoman Kurzak.
Here. Okay, so we're okay to move, we're okay to move on? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, if anybody would like to, anybody has questions for this witness, please line up.
Hi, Paris DeRay.
And provide your, Jeff, you want to provide name and?
You're just going to provide your name and your address, please.
I'm not comfortable providing my address if that's okay with you.
You must provide your address.
Okay, cool. My address is 25 Lexington Boulevard in Barnegat, New Jersey.
And what is your relationship to Asbury Park?
I work in the area.
Okay.
So I know that you had mentioned that on the, on the Cookman Avenue side, that the ADA compliance ramp would not be able to be put there because the doors would have to be moved, correct? And I understand that's a very valid reason. However, with the east side entrance of the building, the point, if you will, I believe the ADA compliance for a ramp is 1 foot raised and 12 foot length. Is there the dimension there to put an ADA accessible ramp in the front of the building? Because all of the shopping is on Cookman Avenue. People aren't moving around to Asbury Avenue to then enter a shopping center. They're not going to know that that's there.
I understand your question. I think, and our team thinks, that the main monumental stair is something, an architectural feature that should not be taken away. So if you agree with that, as we did as a starting point, you've got the two lengths of the facade, one along Asbury, one along Cookman, to put your ramps in. We know we needed the same condition ramp for the lobby entry, which is along Cookman. So that left us because the dimension remained on Cookman, Asbury. So the short answer is, I don't think there's a way to do that. But I'll reiterate that what we're doing is completely compliant with ADA.
You're compliant, but it's not considerate. And then I have questions about the material being used. Is the material being used for the wood also going to be the material used for the balconies?
In what sense?
In terms of, I guess, the decking for the balcony itself, that composite wood material?
If you can't hear me, let me know when I'm talking to this. We don't know yet what the decking is going to be. That hasn't been decided. It won't be the same as you see on the facade because they're designed for different functions.
I'm just wondering what you'd see from underneath when you're standing under what's hanging over the...
That will likely be a metal that matches the windows. So you'll see that mostly at the base of the building. So there's a framework around each of these large windows. As I mentioned before, I think it's very important to have some communication between the retail space and the sidewalk. And we're raised 3 feet off the ground, so that's already a difficulty. I think probably the easiest way in terms of making it look right is having a simple material, that continuity. Having said that, we can look at other materials too. It's not something that I think will make or break any portion of the building.
I don't want to fully rehash all the materials, but my background is in design, and design is
I
always going
apologize,
to be
but-
something that's subjective.
This should be questions at this point, correct? This is correct.
Thank you. Are we going to try to follow more design trends versus what we think is popular and ultra-modern? Asbury Park, you've slipped up a couple times, you called the lot weird. Asbury Park is weird.
Never called it weird.
You did, you corrected yourself twice. Asbury Park is weird, and I think a lot of us are asking that you try to keep some of the weird in Asbury Park.
So, once again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next?
Mike Arvello, South Main Street, Ocean Grove. We heard at the city council meeting last week from the owner of the Empress and representatives from the Vive in the room that there was some conflict about noise when the Vive was built in the shadow of a nightclub. Is there a sound study that's been done for the same reason for this building?
I'm not understanding, is it an architectural question?
I don't understand what that would have to do with architecture, but go ahead.
Is there a sound study for the building that's contributed to the materials that are going to be used to deflect sound coming from the nightclub next door?
What does?
Is there a different person to ask about sound studies? Maybe I'm not asking the right person.
And I can answer, but in general, I think my hesitation was I didn't understand the reason for it when you've got a compliant building. When a compliant building means that all those things, those considerations, have already been made by the folks who wrote the redevelopment plan.
Yeah. So the redevelopment plan calls for an entertainment district surrounding the casino. So this building is being built in the shadow of an entertainment district. How does the design consider noise in close proximity to it?
Are you asking specifically for the Empress?
I'm asking for the Empress. Well, yeah, because like I said, we just heard about the conflict with the neighbors across the street from this building. But also the redevelopment plan declares that the casino area is an entertainment district. So for the future theoretical development of whatever's going to happen there.
I think the short answer is no, we have not done that.
So do the residents that will be moving in here have any obligation to, or any requirement to be noticed that they're going to be living in the shadow of a nightclub and an entertainment district?
I don't know the answer.
Okay. I'd love to protect the trees that are at the corner of the building. Does the plan that you're presenting, I know that with the earlier testimonies that they're going to be removed, does your plan include any accommodation for salvaging and repurposing those trees somewhere nearby?
So the civil engineer described the overall plan in terms of trees. Lots of new planting on both Asbury and East Cookman. We don't have a tree, which I think is what you're referring to at the points. Is that the tree you're?
It's not a tree. It's a collection of mature trees. Yeah.
That will be removed.
They're removed, and will they be repurposed? Is the question.
That's not an answer that I could give you. I don't know that answer.
Okay. The term wasn't actually weird. It was strange. You called it a strange condition.
Yes.
And you said you were responding to this site and the site's strange condition by presenting these materials in this design. How do you reconcile that with the waterfront redevelopment plans declaring the Asbury Ave entrance to be small scale and Victorian, which I interpret specifically to be this lot? The waterfront redevelopment plan specifies, I think, what's required of this lot, using words like Victorian and small scale. I can see it's smaller than maybe what was presented before. How is it Victorian?
It's not Victorian, and I will leave it to our planner to discuss how we respond to each of the questions you've got in terms of materials and those regulations that are part of the redevelopment plan.
Is one of the waivers you're requesting from the Victorian term?
I don't think that that's a specific waiver. Again, I'll leave that to the planner. But my comments from before about the weird site, I wish I didn't use that word. It's not weird. It is a typical site in terms of its configuration. So I shouldn't have used weird or strange. I did not mean to. I will reiterate that I think a Victorian building on a site such as this is almost a ridiculous concept.
It's the concept that was agreed to with the community when the waterfront redevelopment plan was built, though.
No.
And so we will have a planner testify as one of our remaining witnesses who will go through the redevelopment plan and the waivers requested and how it compares, how what we are proposing compares to the requirements of the plan.
Are the people that design and architect the building under any obligation to speak to that, though? To the design inspiration that read Victorian and produced this?
You asked a question as to how this conforms to the redevelopment plan or does not conform?
I'm asking the designer how they found inspiration from those terms and produced this. I think it's a question for people representing the designs, not the plan.
And I think I did answer that. I answered that by reiterating how we started this process, given its specific site conditions, the mass of the building, the triangle where the building is very thin. We are allowed to ask for deviations from any of these ordinances on particular sites where we think those ordinances don't make sense, deviations in this case. This is one of them. Our planner will describe why we think our plan deserves these deviations.
Right, and we'll talk to the planner about the specifics of what the redevelopment plan allows and doesn't allow for those waivers. Can you show us the waivers that you're asking for?
That would be the planner.
When we did this for the other two buildings, the architect was able to pull up the waivers and show us. That's what we did 2 weeks ago.
That's within the planner's purview. That's what.
That wasn't the planner that did it on March 16th.
I did in that case.
The person sitting right next to you did it.
I'm sorry. This application, we have multiple witnesses. We have a planner at the end who's going to go through each one of the waivers because we have two architects who have each given testimonies to two buildings. So to present in an orderly manner, we have a planner that will be going through the waivers and how they apply to each of the components of the site. That testimony has not been presented yet. That testimony will come.
Does the architect have no obligation to defend the waivers that the architect is requesting?
That is everyone has their own purpose here in our presentation, but we have planning testimony that is yet to come.
I'll say again, when I asked this question on March 16th to the person who was presenting the two buildings at the time, that person was allowed by you to respond to my question and read the waivers.
There will be testimony on the waivers specific to this building, and that testimony will come.
Okay. Can we see the version of the plans that does not deviate from the redevelopment plan?
The plan we have is the only plan I can show you. We don't come to a meeting like this with multiple plans.
Does a plan exist that adheres to the waterfront redevelopment plan?
I don't know.
Who knows that?
It's a ridiculous question, though.
Is it?
It is.
So,
I don't want to argue with you, and I'll stop now, but the line of questioning isn't really relevant for me.
I mean, a designer looks at the project, and I think the first thing, if I was a designer, I would do is go look at the rules of engagement, and then I would design something in those rules.
And there will be a comment period at the end, and if that's the comment you would like to make at the end, there will be a period to do that. But are there any questions?
So it's your testimony that there is no design that conforms to the waterfront redevelopment plan?
I said, I don't know if there's none, certainly not one that we prepared. But I did explain several times how the process happened from our perspective as the designers. You don't just look at what you're referring to in some of these architectural regulations. You look at that, you look at the site, you look at the program. When you put it that way, it simplifies the process to a point that it doesn't allow for anything out of the design box that the regulation puts you in.
Which I think was the intent of the work that the community
This section
did.
is for questions. Are there any other questions?
You said that windowsills can't be built in this building because it's made of wood. No, can you just clarify why windowsills can't be built?
That question came up because of the requirement within the redevelopment plan that windows be set in from the window.
Right.
From the wall. But the wall in this case, and in all buildings that are of this size and similar, is only 6 inches. So there's no opportunity to set the window in. Sills are another idea. Sills would just be an applique on a building like this. It's not doing anything structural. It's not, whether it's the sill or the lintel, It's not going to be structural. I don't want to defend the regulations as they are. You keep asking questions about the minutia here. I'm trying to make the point that that's all important. It's not the only important thing, though.
But it's the stuff that's in the law. It's the stuff that is the redevelopment plan. So it is important because it defines what the community expects of the buildings that are being built here.
Is there another question?
I just want to clarify one more time. This building can't have windowsills because the walls are 6 inches of wood.
I already responded, and maybe I wasn't clear. My response about the 6 inches of wood has nothing to do with sills, or that was purely on one of the commissioner's comments about how window has to be set back within the wall. Had nothing to do with wood. I don't think window sills or heads make sense in this building in terms of architecture. It would be just an applique. It would be the opposite of what most of the folks want here. The worst thing we can do, I'm giving my architectural opinion, and maybe I should stop. Yeah, I'll stop. I'll just answer yes or no for them. Apologies.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tom Pacheco. I live at 600 Heck Street at the Cove. So my questions to the architect is, you mentioned that there's no roof access. Was that something that was considered or not considered, or was not in your program to have a green space on the roof? I was at a meeting here, I can't quite, with the
That's
township.
okay, if that's the question,
Okay.
we can answer the question.
Okay.
That was not part of the program given to me.
Okay. Has anyone suggested from the township committee that we consider rooftop gardens on these projects when I think the township committee mentioned that we didn't like the fact that there was not enough green space around the building back, I guess it was about a year ago, before you came to the planning board. I missed last month's meeting, so I apologize for building number 1. But there's a lot of rooftop and has the ability to support green vegetation, green space. And I think that's something that the board might be missing out on, having a program that requires taking our rooftops and putting green spaces, gardens, or access for the public, not the public, but for the tenants. That's my, that was not part of the program. Okay, thank you.
Hi there, I'm Chris Turk. My address is 1100 and a half First Avenue. My question is, I'm a retail owner myself. I know there's a retail space there. There's going to be people working in the stores. Is there any plan for parking for these people? Will they have to get permits, or what is the purpose of it? Because I know that it's personally hard for me to find people to work and park. Is there a plan for those people?
Well, so the parking complies. The waterfront redevelopment plan does not require parking for retail, as you know.
No, okay.
So for this particular site, no.
My name is Jenny, 301 Sunset. For the retail, I
Sorry,
manage 2
what's your
stores
last
on the
name?
boardwalk.
What's your last name?
Kocher.
Cochin?
You said that you don't have a set. Is it 1, 2, 3 spots? How many retails?
We don't know yet, and we've designed it so it's an option depending on who the end user may be. There may be no one that wants 5,000 square feet, there may be 2,500, we don't know. So my job is to design it so that we have reasonable access to this space if it is carved up.
I have another, but.
My name is Nathan Lancia, 508 Fifth Avenue. My question, I guess, is in terms of like energy consumption. So my background is in engineering. So listening to you like talk through a lot of like the front-facing, exterior appliques and all of that. Has there been consideration for, like, since this would be a retail space, like the constant airflow that would be going in and out of the building, since it is mostly going to be glass that would be facing, as that would be like kind of heating up a lot more?
At this point, we haven't done that engineering. It will certainly be done, obviously, if we get approved by this planning board. Having said that, my firm has designed many commercial spaces, and the configuration we've got can work for ERVs, for air changes, and for heating and cooling.
Okay, and that, like, I guess, you know, obviously since heat rises, like, I'm just wondering how that would affect that kind of upper buildings, you know, as the floors start to rise, that kind of upper tier of apartment buildings, like, they would obviously see the most heat throughout the day, so like, would their windows, I guess, be required to be more open as that heat would kind of get trapped, even if the bottom levels remained a lot cooler? I guess that would just be something to consider as well.
Yeah, and it's a very point something we have to deal with in the next step.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that had already been done. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be back.
Hello, I'm Joe Meany, 1003rd, apartment 311, Asbury. I know you're doing ADA, letter of the law, minimum, whatever, and fire egress. You were very cognizant of 2 exits for the walking people. For this ramp, this one ramp that gets you upstairs to the 3-foot level, are you going to shove people down the stairs when there's a fire and they can't get to the ramp? You've only got 1 set of egress for someone who's disabled. That's it.
Is there?
I wasn't questioning.
What are you going to do?
I think what we propose, and you've heard me say it, and I don't make this disrespectful, is compliance. I think smarter people than me come up with these regulations in terms of life and safety, and that's what we need.
Hi, Bob Zuckerman, member of the board, recused, 600 Heck Street in the Cove. My question is just is for the edification of my colleagues there on the board, which is you've heard a lot of discussion tonight, and I thought some really interesting questions from some of my board members. Are you, based on what you heard tonight, are you looking to make some significant redesign of the exterior, or are you looking to just maybe tweak it, or have you not decided yet? Is it too early to ask this question?
We have not decided. We certainly will respond to the comments from the board and the public as best we can.
Okay.
But we haven't decided yet. That time hasn't come.
Okay, great, thanks.
Hello, David Lindley, 301 Cookman Ave. My question is about the retail space. Is that designed to house a food establishment? Meaning, is there vented hoods, runs for people to put in a kitchen?
We haven't designed it specifically for a restaurant use, although that is permitted in the space. If a restaurant was to come in or have people early enough in the process, that we could then provide a ventilation shaft up to the roof.
Right, so all of the things that go along with a restaurant, with removing the waste and the smells that come from restaurants and things like that would be vented up through the roof?
That's correct.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. One and done, sorry. Sorry. One and done. All right, anybody else? Okay.
Can I follow up?
Sure, go ahead.
If you had to do that, vent it up, that would then change the upper floors then somewhat, right?
It would be a 18-inch shaft that would be within one of the residential spaces, typically be in a closet.
But it would, so either, not getting into condo, it would be limited element, common element or something. It would change that person's space, and it would change your floor plans.
It would certainly have a very minor effect on all the floor plans, the 2 floor plans going up.
Would you have to come back for that?
No.
No, it's internal.
No.
All right, your next...
Thanks, everyone.
Next witness? Unless you...
Continue to play your video.
No, I'm okay.
And just so that everyone's clear, we close at 10. Just so everybody knows.
Understood.
Doors open at 7, doors close at 10. You will be able to say your comments if we have to extend. If the application is not finished, you will always be able to say your comments, yes. At the end of the full presentation, which may not be today. We don't know yet.
All right. So we promised a planning witness.
Here we are.
We have Kate Keller here today. So Ms. Keller, if you could be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And again, for the record, if you could state your name and spell your last, please.
Sure, my name is Kate, last name is Keller, Keller.
Now, we will be offering Ms. Keller as an expert in the field of professional planning. So to do that, if you could please summarize for the board your background, experience, and licensure.
Sure. Good evening, chair, members of the board. My name is, as I said, is Kate Keller. I'm a principal with the planning firm of Phillips Price Greigel Laney Keller, based in Hoboken, New Jersey. I'm a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey, and I'm also a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. I hold an undergraduate and master's degree in urban planning from the University of Pennsylvania, and I've been a licensed planner in New Jersey since 2014. I've been accepted for about 100 boards across the state, including this one a very long time ago.
So with that, we would offer.
And everything is current?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, do we have a submission from this witness?
As the planning witness, no. So the planning witness will summarize, I'll be asking in a moment, to summarize the relief that is requested based on the plan submitted. But with that, I do offer Ms. Keller as an expert in the field of professional planning.
Absolutely.
All right. So
thank you.
Ms. Keller, I know you've reviewed the plans, you've been here for the testimony, and we've had a request for you to go through the context of the site and the relief that has been requested.
Sure, thank you, Jen. So as this board is aware, but just for the edification of the members of the public, I did not produce a written report or any type of plan myself. My job here tonight and my job through this process, as retained by the applicant, is to really synthesize what has been proposed by the applicant. And tonight, going to kind of go through the compliance with the redevelopment plan and also provide some justification for the technical waivers that we are requesting, which are largely for the design elements of the redevelopment plan. So to start with the consistency and the compliance with the redevelopment plan, we are here for a mixed-use corner with other multifamily and townhouse residential development on this block. This block is now known as 3801. Over time, the overall development of this block has been changed through the amendments to the redevelopment plan in 2019. But essentially what is being provided here is 67 dwelling units with retail on Asbury Avenue and frontages at that corner, as you've heard. Essentially, the total development of this block is significantly less than was originally envisioned, which provided for 280 units, plus that would include Asbury Cove site, which is 48 units, plus potentially a 3-level parking garage in buildings that measured up to 8 stories in height. So over time, through both amendments to the plan and both reiterations through feedback from the city, this plan has changed so that the development is what is proposed to you tonight. Again, regarding the building height, as you've heard, we are proposing buildings that are 5-story multifamily and 3-story mixed use, and those are both located within portions of the property that permit up to 8 stories. Also, the townhouse building, which is 4 stories, including the parking, is located within the area of a property that also permits up to 8 stories. So essentially, the redevelopment plan going back to 2002 and continuing through revisions in 2019 really contemplated a much larger, taller building for this site, which, again, through feedback through this iterative community process with the feedback from the TRC, the council, et cetera, has led us to what we have here tonight, which is substantially smaller than that. So as you have heard, we are requesting a number of waivers from the redevelopment plan. There are architectural design requirements that are laid out in the plan. And all of the architectural design requirements, which range from very, very detailed in nature to kind of more general suggestions, are intended to effectuate the purpose of the redevelopment plan. And some of the purposes, that are being set forward here include, let me just get the document here. The overall purpose of the redevelopment objective of the plan is to effectuate certain planning principles. It's encouraging new residential development. It's keeping the street grid, the Bradley plan. It's again, one of them, which I think we're doing here well, which you've heard about, is to create a pedestrian-friendly street, prevent parking and traffic problems, et cetera. So there's different levels of design standards in the plan, and this ranges from things that are called, and this is also said in the plan, 3 degrees of importance. These go from shall, and those are the things that we really are requesting waivers from tonight. Those are things that the design standards section says should be happening. There are also the terms should and may. So, and I think that there's also other sections of the plans, including some that were quoted here tonight, that are not necessarily requirements for this site or even requirements for any site in town. Rather, they're all just sort of the guidelines that were put in place in 2002 as part of the vision at that time. So many things have changed since then, as you've heard over tonight and through the past hearing. But really what it comes down to tonight is that we have a plan that fully conforms with the zoning aspects of the site, including the parking, the height, the use, et cetera. And so what we are here for tonight is to request those certain waivers. So I think that the waivers that we are requesting here tonight, and some of these were all addressed in the Clark Hayden Hintz report from, I believe that was February, whenever this was supposed to be first heard. So some of them I believe are not relevant, so I will leave Donna to, or testimony has been provided stating that they are no longer required. So I will leave Donna if she has comments once we're finished, once I finish going through them. But some of the requirements that we have, some of the waivers that we're requesting, I think they can really be sort of categorized in a few broad brushstrokes. Some has to do with the commercial frontage, the street level activity of the site, and that's really both the retail frontage, that's the pedestrian experience as you walk around the site. And those, I think, a lot of those come down to the layout of the property, as you heard. And just to reiterate, for this board and for the public's knowledge, the standard for waivers from the redevelopment plan is outlined in the municipal land use law as well as the redevelopment plan. And these are really exceptions that can be granted if they are deemed by the board to be reasonable and within the general purpose and intent of the provisions for the plan. And that really is if the literal enforcement of the provision is impracticable, or if the requirement would enact undue hardship because of particular conditions pertaining to the land in question. And I think both of these are relevant here, both in terms of this specific property, in terms of the functionality of the plan at 24, not that old, 24 years later, and some of the other rationales that you've heard already from our architects that I will go into. In terms of the pedestrian frontage and the overall design, so one of the things that's mentioned is that the shop fronts are supposed to have commercial fenestration to a certain point, and that the base frontages are supposed to fall into certain categories. Here we do have a mixed-use site at the corner, a site that has always been envisioned to be retail commercial by the waterfront plan, but it is at this really tight corner of the property. So ideally you want more fenestration and as part of a storefront to allow more sunlight. But this is a really narrow space, and it really just, with the design of the site and how everything is intricate, everything is designed in one corner. But we believe that this fenestration is actually much more appropriate here, because otherwise it could even be almost too much light in certain cases. So that's really, I think we also wanted to clarify the number there. We're looking at, we believe we have 46% versus 44%. There was 2 different numbers stated. But essentially, because of this small corner space, anything more, I think, would be not necessarily as appropriate here. Other things regarding the frontage is that we do have the base frontage of the building. We're looking at following categories. And really what this is saying is that you're not supposed to have an unbuffered parking structure, and that the pedestrian frontage is supposed to be a primary contributor to the pedestrian experience. So part of this comes down to, and I go back to the to the proofs for the waivers, which is that things would be impractical given this property. Because one of the comments from your planners is that there's an elevation at the street level, and that is really due to the flood elevation, as you've heard throughout these proceedings. That's something that was not in place at the time of the waterfront redevelopment plan, and it's something that has, it's almost like a design challenge that I think we've done a good job of overcoming here all around the site. There's also parking garages that are located there, as you've seen. We believe that those do comply with the standards set in the plan due to the location of the grills and the screening there. So we think that when you're making your way around the site, especially given the corner nature and the way that it feeds into the other streets, that we meet the general intention of the pedestrian experience there. There's also, just in terms of more technical aspects, there are various design waivers that are required in terms of windows. And again, these are very specific, very tailored, narrowly tailored standards. To the extent where, I will even say that, in my reading of this, there's even places, and this is not uncommon in redevelopment plans or zoning ordinances, but there's places even where the plan might even contradict itself at times. But we are looking for waivers related to the windows really being flush with the interior wall. Should not be flush. Should be flush with the interior wall, not the outer surface. As you heard, this is this really aligns better with the aesthetics as well as the modern construction features. And I think, we've heard, there was a lot of comments tonight about how does this site provide a transition and how does it combine with the other sites that are in the vicinity. And I think the answer here is that given, the development with the cove and to the on Cookman, is that those transitions have already been established. And there are not, it even states so in the redevelopment plan itself, that and this is back from 2002, that there are not necessarily the historic buildings right in this vicinity where it should be compared to. Just let me get this language here as well. But it speaks of the fact that there is, basically that there are not directly contributing buildings. And I think at this point, the idea is not that you want to create a historic pastiche where there is none on this block, but rather to put something that meets the site and also meets its neighbors. And I think that concept of transitions is very important in planning, as one of the board members tonight brought up. And when I relate this back to the windows because of the fact that these are all part of the style of architecture that is in this area. And I think that all of that in general really combines to keep this as a site that, especially the fact that they don't all look the same on the property. Excuse me, by the same I mean the three different buildings. But it really, in terms of both height and in terms of the architecture going from west to east, you do have I think what you could be called a meaningful transition and architecture that relates to the surrounding properties.
If I may interrupt you, because I was looking at the clock, Caden hints in 2.6, because since you bring it up, and this is relevant to the design waivers you're saying. The report brings up in 2.6 about how the plan actually, like, you don't want Main Street Disneyland, right, to replicate, but you were supposed to, these buildings were supposed to replicate certain architectural styles, which they have not. And, you talk about a transition, the cove. I mean, in the Clark Caden Hintz report, right there, it says, yeah, sure, maybe it complements or, makes a transition from the cove, but the cove itself required substantial design waivers. I mean, and to your remark about, there's not that many buildings, historic buildings, yeah, right, we demolished them all, we let them crumble, but that's my comment.
No, and I think that the concept that this is expressed in that letter, and I know what you're saying. Because basically what it says is that these developments that are in this vicinity here are the modern coastal aesthetic, which I think is a little different really than what's being proposed here, especially the building at the corner. And I think that is, it really does have kind of a unique feature. And unfortunately, I don't have I don't have any visual aids for this, but one of the examples that's given as styles of architecture, we hear a lot about the Mediterranean revival and the typical sort of white buildings in Asbury Park. But something that's also mentioned is kind of the modern style, which is kind of a more, not quite Art Deco, but it really does have a lot of features that are more of like a low rise. It's less, really it's less kind of grand, I would say, than the type of Mediterranean revival. I keep looking up here because we can always mention the buildings that are right behind you. But I think that, there really are, especially with the corner feature, there's more than one way to do this. And in terms of, I think that, just pasting things onto these buildings to just kind of recreate a feature where it's not necessarily part of the surrounding area, and it's not necessarily part of the existing fabric of this site, which, like you said, that is the case. And that was also the case at the time when this plan was written. And so I think it's kind of when you look at what is the contextual architecture today, there's no one answer for that. But it does have to do with, this modern coastal appearance and really drawing into what has been by both built and what has been approved by these boards and approved by the council. So that's why, I raised that point.
Well, yeah, that goes my point, is that there's been monolithic, there's been, cookie cutter development all along the waterfront in Asbury Park as condo land. So yeah, it matches what's been developed, yes.
And I think that all of those projects like this one have all gone through the same process with the TRC, with the council review, and approved by the planning board. So just in terms of just briefly going through the rest of these design waivers, I believe I addressed windows. Finally, we'll talk about kind of the balconies and the facade design. One is that there are multiple balconies proposed on here, whereas the plan says that if there are going to be multiple balconies, they should be kind of in rear side elevations. This again is a unique site. It has a lot of frontages. It has kind of rear facing areas. And I think that having the balconies, private balconies on the front facing is appropriate given this building. It kind of improves the uniformity throughout the site, not compared to, not just looking at the context of other buildings, but just looking at this site in general. But it really provides a better view rather than a parking area than it would be if they were in the rear. Other requirements, almost done here, is that there's certain requirements for frontages about how the base of a building should be differentiated from the middle. That is something that is not provided here, but to a certain extent, and that's because those requirements are really intended for those 6 to 8 story buildings. Even the redevelopment plan, when it speaks about that, mentions urban building form, of which this is a type of urban building form, but these were also, as said, intended to be 6 or 8 story buildings. When a building is 3 stories in height, you don't need that kind of visual definition the same way that you do when it might be a larger building, because the base is really kind of intrinsic here. So finally, 2 more. The roof, there is a flat roof here, which it says it should be designed as a terrace attached to a partial penthouse to improve its visual appearance. Again, that's really kind of a subjective, I think, terminology of visual appearance, and that it's really impractical here given the shape of the building and the size of the lot. Then finally, back to facade colors, that the requirement for the design standard is that they should be selected from a certain quadrant of the color wheel. And this is, again, over time, I think this is something that was always well-intentioned, but it has become, it's become challenging over time. And the trim here, we are seeking more warm design in more warmer colors here. I think that the message has been heard loud and clear from this board, TRC, council, that the kind of cool gray appearance is, is not really favored anymore. And so the changes have been made in order to really kind of warm up the appearance here. So again, I think that especially given the wood grain at the corner, this is not incompatible with the project or with the context, and that all in all, it's an example of that sort of modern coastal architecture that I think is appropriate at this site. So I think I've hit on the major. There's
one I noted, the garage door.
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh. I know. Usually when there's a number, I try to get to that one. So, okay. Yes, there is a requirement that garage doors facing a frontage must be a maximum of 9 feet wide. This is an example of kind of something that is, that's a width that might make sense for a single family or for, a one-way garage. But here you have a 24-foot wide garage door facing Cookman. And that really here is for safe two-way access. The actual garage, I believe, is smaller. The curb cut is the curb cut.
I believe the testimony was that the
16
for the door,
yes.
24 for the curb.
Right. So that's basically the 16-foot garage door is really as small as you can get while it's still being safe for two-way access. And what that does, which I think is important here, is that it eliminates the need for yet another curb cut on the site. So that's why we're requesting a waiver to the impracticality of that.
And then there was a waiver that was noted requiring plaques for the architects to be affixed to the buildings, and we will agree to affix those plaques and eliminate that waiver.
Yes. The only other one that I just want to mention is that there was a comment that rooftop equipment may be visible from the Philips Seaview Tower. To the extent a waiver is required from that, I think that we would ask for that because, again, it's a 12-story building. It would be really pretty much impractical to, screen everything from that adjacent building. So the applicant here has provided setbacks from the roof edge and equipment screens where appropriate. So that I'm happy to answer any questions if Donna has comments on her letter, but otherwise from the board, I welcome any questions.
Just to summarize then, you laid out the standard at the beginning for the waiver request. Based on the testimony that you have given and what you have heard from the other professionals, do you believe that the waivers meet those standards?
I do. I believe this is a plan that is consistent with the standards of the redevelopment plan. It meets all the uses and all the zoning requirements. And then in terms of the waivers, I think that between the two prongs, one is that the literal enforcement is impracticable. Or that the requirements will enact undue hardship due to the particular conditions, things like the floodplain, things like the shape of the site. I think that all of what we've requested are reasonable and do not detract from the general purpose and intent of what has been proposed here, what has been required by the plan.
Thank you. I do not have any further questions for Ms. Keller.
Could you be a little more specific about what waivers you're asking for? You did a great job of describing the building and the plan, but I didn't feel like I understood which specific waivers you were addressing.
So maybe we can go through them, just kind of list them all. I know you grouped some of them together.
Sure. Yeah. Trying to think of the best way to do this. Maybe it would be to, if you have the Clark Kate and Hintz report in front of you.
We do, yes.
That's a good way to do it. Okay, so we are on page 9. Okay. So B, conflicts with architectural guidelines of the WRP. The first one has to do with windows having operable casements. Most, as you heard, that we will be most.
That was addressed, yeah.
Those that have been addressed. We are requesting a waiver for windows to be flush mounted. Number 2 is the requirement for garage doors with place facing a frontage to be a maximum of 9 feet. 3, balconies shall be visibly supported by brackets and shall not exceed 3 feet in depth. We are proposing inset balconies. My read, I'm not sure if this waiver is not needed. My read of that is that it's meant to apply for cantilevered balconies. But if this is determined to be required, I would just say again that I think the same testimony as I gave for the fact that there are balconies. It's an unintrusive way of allowing allowing open air along the frontage without extending into the right of way and thereby preserving the setback.
So the waiver is not just for the brackets, it's for the depth as well?
No, I think because they're inset. They're not, you know what I mean?
No, but they're also limited in depth.
They're limited in depth. So I mean, the one on the front of
the first half of the.
The second, I mean, that's really big. That's got to be more than 3 feet, those two balconies in front.
I think the question is, it's your understanding that the intent of the redevelopment plan was to prevent overhanging balconies by 3 feet. We have no balconies that overhang. They are inset by more than 3 feet.
Yes.
I think Don needs to clarify that. Is it the overhang?
What's the intent of the waterfront redevelopment plan?
Well, no, I mean.
Design guidelines?
They're asking for a waiver, so is it the 3 feet?
I think Ms. Keller has addressed it adequately, that if it's an inset balcony, there's a reason why it could be deeper and not supported by brackets. And the fact that the building is set back and configured in a way so that the balconies do not overhang the right-of-way or other public space, that would, again, be a reason to allow for a deeper balcony.
Yes.
So they don't need a waiver for the exceeding 3 feet?
No, I think they do, but she's given reasons.
Okay.
Yes, so I apologize for the confusion there. Yeah, I don't have that exact number in front of me, but yes, we do require a waiver for that, and it for the aforementioned reasons, which is that it really, the intent is to regulate the extension of balconies. Number 4, this has to do with the commercial fenestration percentage. We can confirm this, but I believe it's either 44 or 46%, where 70% is required. And again, this is a kind of a unique site, again, because of that corner feature, because of the fact that it has to be elevated for the floodplain. And I think that appropriate commercial fenestration at 44% or 46% is meets the intention here, because you also want to maintain, some kind of visibility as well. Number 5, balcony is best used as a single continuous element. I have addressed this one. And the balcony should be confined to rear and side, so yes, I addressed that. Windows, except storefronts, shall be operable as or hung or casement, and majority of windows shall be rectangular with the height to width ratio. We have proposed operable windows. So that part, I don't think a waiver is no longer required.
Just to be clear, though, there is
Majority.
testimony that, right, the majority are
not
operable, but there are some within the window units that are fixed.
Yes, as part of the overall structure, yes. So, yes. And then the height to width ratio, did we get a testimony on the height to width ratio? But generally, that's really, it's meant to, it's something that I would call a very specific regulation. And the height to width is really more of a factor of looking at how the building is designed and how it looks. And so I think in this case where that ratio may not always be met exactly, but this is typical for a multifamily building, and I think it's appropriate to have them here as such.
So it's a waiver or not a waiver?
It is a waiver.
It is a waiver. So we understood your description and your explanation. I just wanted to know, because I wasn't sure from your description, which ones of these you were actually asking for a waiver for. Because I know the very, very first thing you said was that some of Donna's ones were addressed. So I don't feel you have to defend every single one of these. I just want to know which ones you are asking waivers for.
Sure. So some of the ones where there has been, there's a comment saying, will you provide this or provide that? And those are kind of what I'm kind of going through, and I'm going to try to be, I'll try to be a little briefer. But the idea is that there, some testimony has been provided over the course of these proceedings that answer some of the questions.
Sure. Yes, it does.
So number 7, flush-mounted windows, we are requesting that waiver. Number 13, windowsills are not provided. We are requesting that waiver as heard. Number 9, this is one where, this is kind of, this has to do with the frontage of the building and its pedestrian character. Out of due diligence, I put on testimony for this, but I believe that we have we have created a pedestrian experience here, especially given the nuances of the flood control that's required here. But this is something where, your planner has provided a comment on it, but it's almost like sort of a subjective, I think, view here. And so that's how I wanted to address that.
So it's our view on this one that a waiver's
not required.
Because we have provided townhomes that exit out onto the street, correct? And-
Yes, we provided, kind of a signature entrance at the corner as well as another entrance on Asbury Avenue, and have provided the type of building materials that are seen as appropriate at pedestrian level by the plan. Number 10, this is technically the middle of the building shall be differentiated from the base by the transition line. We are requesting a waiver for that. My testimony there dealt with the fact that while it is technically required, I don't think it's necessarily appropriate for this scale of building. Number 11 is the building frontages again. Starting talking about the different types of base frontages for positive pedestrian contribution. This is again one that where it's noted that at the time the material of the panels, how the parking spots would be screened had not been provided. Our testimony, or my opinion, is that we no longer require a waiver for this because the way that the building has been designed and the testimony that's been provided over the course of these hearings now complies with this. Number 12, the roof is flat, designing it as a terrace attached to a partial penthouse. Best way to achieve visual adequacy. We have not proposed that, and if a waiver is required, I don't see a should in here or shall in here, but if a waiver is deemed to be required, I think that it's a design decision that's not necessarily appropriate here, especially for the corner building. Because the other buildings do have rooftop decks and terraces, so. Number 10, adequate parapets shall mask any negative impact from street level, as well as horizontally from adjacent buildings. I know it's saying horizontally, but there were comments about the higher buildings to the side, but the testimony has been provided about the parapet walls, testimony has been provided about the setback from the building walls that will screen as much as possible from the adjacent cove development. And again, I think that this is, as stated here, some of the mixed-use building equipment will be visible by residents from Phillips Seaview Tower and the Vive, which I think is kind of inevitable, especially because we are, proposing a building that's smaller than those buildings. And then
so it's a waiver requested only to the extent that it is interpreted to mean that you're supposed to screen from a building that's many
stories higher. Yes. And then number 14, facade colors, we are requesting that waiver as I stated. The testimony still applies. And number 15, agree with the signage with the architect and leader of construction, we agree to comply with that. We're no longer requesting the waiver.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else for this witness by our professionals or?
Yeah, I have some questions.
Yes, sir.
Let's go back to page 10, item 10. You indicated in your testimony that this only applies to 6 and 8 story buildings. Where in the waterfront redevelopment plan did you get that idea?
I did not. I said that was it's more important for those type of buildings. The waterfront redevelopment plan indicates that should be the case for buildings over. I'm trying to find the reference right now. Over 3 stories.
You testified prior. Now, what is your testimony? That it's only applied over 3 stories? You said that the waterfront redevelopment plan contemplates these elements on 6 and 8 story buildings. Which is it?
My testimony is that we are requesting a waiver from this. However, my testimony is that for the part of the rationale for the granting of the waiver is that for buildings of this type, which include, 4 and 5 story mixed use building, 4 story townhouses, the 5 story residential building, and then the mixed use building, is that we have enough design templates within there. Whereas that, for townhouses, we have alternating materials, we have ways to distinguish them from one another. So to start with the townhouses, I think that it's almost overkill for type of a townhouse development to also have that base, middle, and top. So we are requesting the waiver. And then my testimony was also that for a 3-story building, like the mixed-use building, that it really is, again, it's not so necessary to have that base, middle, and top because of the scale of the building.
You said that came out of the waterfront redevelopment plan.
Not quite. What I said in the waterfront redevelopment plan is that it does, the quotes were that it says that's for urban building types, and that I can't find it right now, but I know it's in there, is that it's 3 stories or more is what it's really intended to apply to.
Your testimony is for the entire site or just for the mixed-use building?
It's for, I'm trying to clarify when it applies to each. Many of these do apply to the whole site.
No, but I'm asking you, are you the planner for the entire site?
Yes.
Or just, oh, okay.
Yes, of course, yes.
Yeah, just remember, the application's for the entire site with a subdivision.
So yeah, I think also when you look at the the waivers that we are requesting, these are, they are not all applicable to the same building. They're not all applicable to every building. And so, we're trying to keep it clear where that, which is which. But, I understand that it is a kind of a complex, especially when you go through the list like this, so.
And how does this building number 3 make that transition between what is to the west and what is existing on the boardwalk and boardwalk area to the east? How does that building number 3 make that transition?
Sure. So I mean, just from my, from a planning perspective, I'm not an architect, I'm not an architectural designer, but when I look at that building, it's lower in height compared to the building next to it. It's lower in height from many of the other buildings to the west and even to the north. And it has that kind of tiered structure that we saw from Mr. Minervini's testimony, where you do have kind of like the tiered balconies. And to me, honestly, without getting technical with it, I think that really evokes kind of the look of a lot of the pavilions along the waterfront with those sort of exterior upper floor balconies. It keeps it at a height that I think is, kind of slopes down towards the water, as was discussed. That's really the change, where it keeps that view shed.
So you think that this building relates to the architecture of the buildings up on the waterfront and the boardwalk?
I think that's specifically the design of the corner feature with the sloped patios. I think it does in terms of in terms of a transition. It doesn't look like that exactly. It's not copying it. It's not intended to be like that.
Well,
but I see a relationship.
What elements in this building number 3 that we're talking about, are picked up from the existing buildings on the boardwalk and on the waterfront in that vicinity?
I just stated, I don't have the visuals in front of me, but I was referring to the corner.
Yeah, you're talking about a sloped building, and you're talking about 3 stories rather than 5 to the west.
I'm talking about the sort of rooftop patios, which I think is similar to what you see at the pavilions.
And that's the element you think is transition?
I think it's one of them.
Okay. What are the other ones?
I think that this is a site where you have basically this corner where everything really comes down to that corner. It's not, there's no such thing as a perfect transition, and we're not really required to do that here. I think that this is has a lot more relationship to the boardwalk than an 8-story building would. And I think that
You're not proposing an 8-story building, though, are you?
we're not, but the plan allows us to.
But you're not proposing one?
No, we're not.
Okay. So that's really irrelevant?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So that's yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions from any of the planning board members?
If you don't mind, I'm
Go
not
ahead.
sure you covered this. This is also page 10. Under no circumstances shall the windows be installed with flash, etc.
Yes, we have. I did address that, and our architect did too. But essentially, that just comes down to the type of construction that is being proposed here. That has been proposed most of the new development, where it's really it has to do with just the way that the buildings are constructed, and also the fact that it's more appropriate, in this style, where I don't think it looks out of place to have the flush windows.
Even though it says under no circumstances, it doesn't seem to leave a lot of wiggle room.
Well, all of
for-
these requirements here, and I'll defer to Donna's interpretation of them, but all of these are subject to the same, standards for waivers as we
Yeah,
stated.
even in our zoning ordinance, we say things are prohibited, that doesn't keep you from asking.
Right.
If you have a reason.
I just wanted to hear the reason.
Any other questions from the planning board members of this witness? Okay, let's open it up to the public. Does the public have any questions of this planning board witness?
What's the standard?
No, this is questions.
No, just name and address for the record.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Mike Arvello, South Main Street, Ocean Grove. What's the
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, unless I misheard last time. Did you say Ocean Grove as opposed to Wesley Grove?
Ocean Grove?
So in Neptune?
Correct.
Do you live within 200 feet of the site,
Of what site?
of the site for which this application is this
No.
evening? And do you own property in Asbury Park?
No,
Do you work in Asbury Park?
sometimes.
No, I mean, do you own a business here? Do you own property?
No, I don't own a business here.
So I just want the record to reflect that questions are being asked by someone who does not actually have standing under the municipal land use law, as someone who does not own property in town and does not live in town, and in fact lives in a different municipality and not within 200 feet of the site.
I hope that my questions will be relevant regardless.
It's just important for the board to understand who has standing and who does not.
Well, hopefully the questions will speak for themselves. What is the standard by which waivers can be granted?
I said that several times, but happy to repeat it.
Yeah,
This is straight out of the municipal land use law,
yeah.
as reiterated in the redevelopment plan.
You said reasonable.
Let her answer.
Oh,
Mike,
sure.
let her answer, please.
Yeah,
Planning board may grant exceptions from what's really called design requirements for subdivision site plan approval if exceptions would be reasonable and within the general purpose and intent of the provisions for the site plan or subdivision. If, this is where we have to put on our burden, is that you show the literal enforcement of one or more provisions is impracticable, or that the requirement will exact undue hardship because of peculiar conditions pertaining to the land in question. I would say the majority of the waivers we are requesting would fall under the first, which is that the literal enforcement would be impracticable.
impracticable.
Yes.
Yeah. What does the municipal land use law say about better planning results?
But better planning, do you mean a better planning alternative?
When waivers are granted, they need to also provide better planning results.
Is that a question?
Yeah, is the standard of better planning results applied in the criteria that you're considering?
I honestly, I know there is it's usually a better planning alternative is the phrase that I think you're referencing, and I'm honestly not sure if that's reiterated in the redevelopment plan. I don't have that in front of me or not.
Okay. You talked about the waterfront redevelopment plan including general suggestions, and you called it well-intentioned. It's a plan that was built with 9 days of community input into the very design standards that you're asking for exceptions from. You said yourself that there's 3 degrees of importance, and the ones you're asking for waivers from are the most important ones, the shalls.
Because those are the only ones that you need waivers from.
So how is a color impracticable?
A color is impractical because it's all part of the overall building design. Impractical doesn't mean that you can't do it. It means that it's for a variety of reasons to use what the comment that you use is that, would it necessarily be a better planning alternative or would it? And I think that, what the ideas, the colors that have been proposed, and that's proposed in a variety of many of these applications where it's been requested before, is that, we're responding to the demands of the market. We're just responding to, the existing context around it. Now also, to be honest, there's the availability of high-quality materials that can withstand, certain conditions, and not everything's available in every color. So it's really usually a combination of all three of those. And that's where the impracticability comes in.
So you're asking for a waiver for the colors because of the context, because it's impracticable, because the architectural context of the buildings around it have all already been approved and are gray.
That was one prong of what I stated, and I would also just say that a lot of it comes down to the other. There's multiple considerations. There's dozens of considerations that go into building design, and some of that does include, what the market is looking for.
So you're telling us that the standards of the community are not market friendly and are therefore impracticable.
I'm not talking about the specific standards. I'm talking about generally how colors and how design is chosen.
But there's one standard, and it's the one that's being requested of a waiver for. So that's the one I'm talking about. How is giving us the color that's in the plan impracticable?
I think I answered that question.
I believe she did too. Please move on.
You said there's no historic pastiche, but the building's across the street from the Empress and the casino and the carousel and the power plant.
You misunderstood my comment there. Pastiche is an architectural term that's usually meant to, that means when you where if you were to design a building and you take in a variety of historical styles and you put them all in one building just in order to get a historic look that is not based on actual context. That's what I was talking about. That's what pastiche means. I was not talking about the fact that it was not referring to, maybe historic fabric is more what you're talking about. That's not what I was stating.
I think I'm reiterating the intent behind points that were made by other members of the board, where I look around the community here and I see more than...
Mr. Avella, this is for questions only. You have to stick to the questions. We're already after 10 o'clock. There may be other people that want to ask questions. So stick to questions, please.
Okay. Historic context exists for the building, whether it's pastiche, it's certainly proximity. There are historic structures that this building is going to be facing and representing. How does that produce
The intent of the redevelopment plan is not to replicate historic structures. It's to provide redevelopment in accordance with the plan that reflects the city using contemporary architectural styles.
In the prior meeting, a representative from the city confirmed that contemporary is not an approved design standard. Are you saying that, I'm confused.
There are different phrases. I am reading directly from, where do I have this? Essentially, supporting, here's one of the purpose of the design guidelines, is to support the regional architectural vernacular of the Jersey Shore in a contemporary way. So that's really, it's not intended to be a carbon, like an ahistorical carbon copy. It's intended to provide for new development in a contemporary manner. That doesn't mean, I don't think that contemporary with a capital C architecture is a style, and that's not what we're proposing, but I'm using the word contemporary as an adjective.
Do the fact that prior projects had approvals on these waivers obligate the board to approve the waivers for this project, in your opinion?
No, every application stands alone. However, if a board has determined that something very similar waiver was impracticable, I think that we feel that we putting on the testimony and we're putting on the proofs to say that the same thing may apply here. Obviously, every site is different, and there is not that there's no precedent set by board's decisions.
Mm-hmm. And is there a version of this plan that adheres to the waterfront redevelopment plan on which you can make the basis of impracticability by a measurable comparison of one plan to the other?
I don't really understand what that means.
Is there a plan that conforms to the waterfront redevelopment plan?
Are you asking if a plan has been submitted that conforms? Because the answer to that is no.
Yes, the answer to that question is no.
So without the point of reference of a conforming document, how are you able to objectively measure the impracticability of that being delivered?
Because to speak of impracticability as a point, it is incredibly impracticable and onerous and to expect that any applicant should do that. And that is why the planning board and the city and the redevelopment plan are all structured the way that they are. These are not, black and white things where this plan is good, this plan is bad. The board, under the guise of the municipal land use law, under, the supervision of the redevelopment plan, evaluates every site plan on its merits. And there's no requirement that you have to show up with a perfectly conforming plan to all the architectural requirements, which, as I said, would, I think, given the depth, scope, and simple number of the architectural requirements, I'm not sure that's possible for any site.
It's not possible to design a building that conforms to the requirements?
I don't know for sure, I haven't attempted. It's not, we have not done that for this site.
I don't have anything else, thank you.
Any questions from the public? Okay.
Typically, at this point, we would be at the point in time where we might conclude and open to the public, but I think given the hour, sorry. I think we're going to need another night.
Yes, we are.
And in between now and then, we may decide to, we'll consider what I said and we'll decide whether we will come back and just simply proceed to public comment or whether we will decide to submit plans that are revised. And I think we will have that discussion in the interim.
What's what are our options, Mark?
If revisions need to be made, we would be looking at possibly, if you could get revisions to us by May 8th. Donna, do you have the schedule in front of you by chance? I was gonna say June 15th.
Only if we have to do a report, they're only gonna make.
They're just gonna make changes.
Minor changes where we wouldn't do a report.
Yeah, I don't think that we're looking at reports.
Okay, Jeffrey, are you available on June 1st?
Yes.
Jennifer?
June 1st?
There's also June 15th.
I'm available on June 1st. Right, June 1st? Then June 1st, and that would be at 7 PM?
That would be 7 PM.
So we would request that this hearing be carried to June 1st at 7 PM with no further public notice.
Yes.
So moved. Second.
Well, thank you for doing my job.
Sorry. I was really just stating it succinctly for the record.
Yes, we'd like to make a motion to bring this back on June 1st, 7 o'clock, with no further notice, and that may include some other presentations, and after that, more questions and then comments.
So moved. I'll second it again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.